Vigilantes, welcome to the Tailgate party for the TCV Summit, On-Chain Economies Summit, baby. We're getting started tonight. We're going to go all day tomorrow at cryptovigilante.io/ordinals, baby. Let's go. Let's cook tonight. Woo! We got Jack Lou in the house. We're expecting Paul Storch to drop by as well later tonight. We're really excited about the lineup we have. We're going to talk about scaling together. The convergence is here, baby. Hyper Bitcoinization, here we come. Woo! We got B Love and BU in the house. What up, Matt? How you doing, brother? We can't hear you, bro.
Hear me?
We can hear you now. What up?
Yo, it was weird as shit. Did this space end or was that just me?
No, we got rugged. Something happened in Twitter. It was just like malfunctioning. Whatever.
You got rugged. Came up with that because that's genius.
I don't know.
Oh man, it's happening, guys. Email blast is about to go out. Video just premiered on YouTube. They're getting out more and more. Huge tomorrow.
Yeah, man. It's like it's about time us Bitcoiners came together, started cooking together, right?
Yeah.
This is the beginning. We're at the beginning stages, guys. We got to take off. We're going to the moon, baby. Let's go.
It's like Cambrian SV just couldn't contain itself, man. No walled gardens here. It just had to explode into the world.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because, like, you know, at the Crypto Vigilante, everybody's welcome, right? It's for everyone, bro. We're teaching everyone, bringing everybody in. Lineup? Yeah, bro. Matt, you want to share the lineup for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd love to actually. You guys got to see this graphic, man. I've been doing Canva for like 5 years, and it looks sick. Okay, how can I share it like on the space? Like throw an image up for you guys?
Yeah, bro, you gotta do like a tweet, and then you share that tweet to the space.
Okay, do it for my personal Be Love and BU account. All right.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Give me just
a second. I love the memetics you put into it, bro. Like you got bitmap in the back. Very sneaky.
I mean, should I share all the memetics, or are we gonna keep it on the low?
I don't know, bro. Sometimes you gotta share it. Sometimes you gotta keep it on the low.
You're right.
Depends how you're feeling.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know. All right. So here it is. Here it is. Okay. This is where it's at tomorrow. So blessed and honored to be sharing the stage with at Vamos Vigilante and at Jack Lou Jack C on behalf of at Vigilante Crypto. Oh man, you guys haven't even seen this yet. Probably this is gonna. I'd really love to see what you think of this, like real time. Get your all access pass at. Here's a link, guys. HTTPS cryptovigilante.io/ords-x. Pretty sure that's it. Let me double check. Where ords and ords, yep, it's /ords-x. All right. And naturally, you got to put the hashtags in: Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain, not the chains that are holding us back, ordinals.
Bro, look, man, the truth is that everyone wants hyper Bitcoinization. Everyone in crypto desires for their coin or their network, whatever that they have, to become the network for everything. That's really what drives everyone, right? Everyone wants to be part of the best of networks. And so hyper-Bitcoinization is a desire that everyone that encounters crypto has innately. So it's good to know that your goal as a listener is to figure out what the best network is or the best networks are that can give you that possibility. That's why we're here.
That is, and with that said, about to drop this link. So I just put it in the comments, right? See, I'm learning as I go. Right? Just put it in the comments on the space, and then you'll see it. Or, okay, back in action.
I'll do it. Don't worry, bro. I'll find it for you and I'll put it up.
I just put it up.
So,
It's in the comments on the Twitter space. I think that'll work. You see it? And just a shout out to everyone here. If you have a moment, if you're so inclined, please repost this current Twitter space. See if we can get some more loving folks on this pre-game tailgate party.
there you go. I just put it up on the nest for you.
Okay.
We doing this.
Yeah. Honestly, Raph, I don't think you do a better job kind of explaining who's going to be speaking in the least. Just briefly introduce our host and our keynote speaker. Obviously, we got Raph here. He's the co-founder of the Crypto Vigilante. He's a master of Austrian economics, like Ed Bugos at the Dollar Vigilante. He's been an OG Bitcoiner since probably like 2010, 2011. Discovered it while he was actually helping out Ron Paul with his campaign. So man, you can really put yourself back in those times when libertarianism was really coming to the scene, to the world stage, and Rafael Valverde was there. That was his moment to see what Bitcoin was all about, and he has been one of the gatekeepers of Bitcoin as it is intended in its original design to preserve all that it's meant to become, which we still really can't even fathom at this moment yet. But there is a person that kind of gets it more than most people I've ever met, and that is the founder of ordswap.io. That's the keynote speaker, Jack Liu. This man is a legend. He's the next CZ Binance of blockchain technology. You don't have to take my word for
Nah,
it.
bro, he's not way more than that, bro. Like,
I
no,
know.
dude,
I know.
we're leaving the centralized Wall Streetization of crypto, bro. I don't like that comparison. No, bro, this is another level.
Beautiful.
No, we're going into Bitcoin economy. Period.
Yep, the new Bitcoin economy. So I definitely won't say that tomorrow during the summit, but there you go. That's your host and your keynote speaker. Raph is going to open up the event, and Jack is going to close it out. So be sure to block your day off. Get there in the morning. I think we're kicking off 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have about 15, 16 speakers, maybe more if we can squeeze it in, but you don't want to miss Jack's closing talk. And
yeah, dude, we have so many people hitting us up right now to speak. It's crazy.
well, you called
Like,
it,
and
man.
the things, dude, and it's crazy because it's like we were trying to like fit everyone's schedule, and that's why we kept moving things around. But shit, man, it's like this thing is just blowing up. This is like the third Ordinals conference in this week alone. How crazy is that, right? And so, yeah, man, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where we're going. Again, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of the Crypto Vigilante formally stepping into Web3, into the on-chain economy, going hard, going hard.
Send it.
Which is fun.
Full send.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's we're excited. We're excited.
We are. So, Ref, well,
so we had a really cool. What's up? What's up?
Why don't you, at some point when you're ready, just introduce all of these speakers? What you currently know about them. I know you're just kind of meeting these fresh new faces of the new Bitcoin economy, and I think I'll preface that with a personal testimony that many of the most powerful allies that I have in my network, by the grace of God, don't know how. You probably don't know their names. So my encouragement is that do not dismiss anyone based on view counts, followers, what their face looks like, whether it's a JPEG or you just don't like it. If you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because a lot of these folks that you may not know are some of the heavy hitters of the new Bitcoin economy. And the way that this works, as you'll learn, is that you actually don't. It's actually better if you bootstrap. It's better if you just come like just as you are, being loved, being yourself, your raw skills, your passion, your fire. That's more valuable than any VC could ever provide. Your sweat equity, right? So, that being said,
so yo, yeah. Paul Storks is on his way here right now.
nice, man.
He is He is the creator of the controversial drive chains, and they're not controversial at all, guys. This is pretty interesting. Yo, Paul, how's it going? Let me bring you up. Paul Storks, everybody. Let me see. Can you request to speak? Well, add you.
Oh, he's doing that, man. You might have to pump it up.
We gotta pump it up. Let's do it.
Yeah, give it all. Gotta pump it up after we lock it up.
What up? What up? How's everyone doing? Paul, how are you? It's good to have you here. What a pleasure to have you here. I've interviewed you. I'm the person that's interviewed you the most in the past like 4 years.
We've done a bunch.
And I've been following. Yeah, dude. We've been like following the trajectory of drive chains since day one. And here you are fighting the good fight for Bitcoin, giving entrepreneurs options in the market, scale on chain so that people can do as they please. Give us an update. What's going on?
Well, in a way, it's going very well, and in another way, it's been perplexing and disappointing. But a lot of people are giving it, the attention it deserves now. But I think I've been kind of shocked at a lot of people. There's a lot of basically corrupt people in Bitcoin. You guys, as many people warned me. There's a lot of people they've written a book or something where. What's happened is we've gone so long without side chains is that now everyone has sour grapes, and they say, well, we don't even want that stuff anyway. It's flipped completely from what it used to be, which was just you're only going to need 21 million BTC because Bitcoin will just do all this stuff. It will just do the Monero ring signatures. It'll do the ZK snark. It'll do it somehow. And so there's no need. There's never a need to launch an altcoin. It's flipped from that. That's what it used to be, and now it's become this weird kind of Bitcoin Core is infallible, and we know everything that has ever been done on every altcoin, or will be invented, and we know that we don't want any of that. But in general, I think it's going very well. Get a lot of attention. I think the miners love it. So I think we're getting as it goes through the process, and people learn about it. And I think it's a soft fork. It's popular with miners. The actual idea is just in using an unused op and op and using it to count to 13,000. So the idea is rock solid. It's a very good idea, but it's like a lot of people. There's a lot of gatekeepers though, so we'll just have to get past them. It'll just take a little while.
I'm really sorry to hear that, Paul. Yeah, you've been like a warrior, in that you've been the one who has tried the hardest to make the dream happen on BTC. So you definitely get the award for that, and thank you for doing that. And there's a bunch of Bitcoiners that support what you're doing.
Yeah, I have a lot. If you go to layer2labs.com/friends, I really feel like I have the creme de la creme. But I don't. There's a lot of people that I don't have. But I've got some great supporters, including you, sort of. but it is. I definitely don't have 100% support.
Yeah, I mean, and the question that comes to mind is well, isn't Bitcoin supposed to be permissionless? Isn't Bitcoin supposed to be something that I can just be part of and bring my entrepreneurship to? I remember talking to you at an Acapulco when you spoke there, and you said, we should really embrace a Hayekian approach to the market. And I remember you saying we should experiment in the market as scientists experiment in a lab. And I completely agree with you, man. And the thing is that a lot of Bitcoiners are doing that, and you see testaments of that with Ordinals, right? There was no central planning, right. No permission. We just started things on chain. The moment we saw an opportunity to arbitrage data, we took it. We ran with it. And actually, here in the audience, we have the founder of the first Ordinals marketplace, who's going to be the keynote speaker at our Crypto Vigilante Ordinal Summit, Jack Liu. If he wants to come up, he's more than welcome to chat with Paul. But yeah, Paul, it's we have to seek wherever there is that mindset of permissionlessness and frictionlessness for entrepreneurs. That's where I think the energy should go. Like, they can't stop ordinals. There's just no way they can stop ordinals now on BTC. There's just no way. So what are your thoughts on ordinals?
Well, I think, you know, it's immoral for these people to try and stop you from doing whatever you want with your own money, or in this case, with space that you buy. I just, you know, it seems like a losing battle. They really think that history is on their side or whatever, but it's just like a basic property right. You own if you buy for the block space, you know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to some of the things they say. It's just really weird. So yeah, this is the strain that both DriveChain and Ordinals have both hit on. The idea that a consenting adult, a consenting user might want to use a certain piece of software. A consenting developer might want to write that software. A consenting miner might want to mine the transaction. All within the rules of L1 BTC. And yet a bunch of people are going to complain about it. And then like with Ordinals, you can see like it goes beyond religious. It's like these people are like saying that like whatever Udi is like screwing up the future for their children, or I mean, it's just like it's just complete nonsense. The critics of Ordinals are just like, they're just bizarre people. We gotta like save Bitcoin from these crazy people.
But like, how can you? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where like the only way to like save Bitcoin, in my opinion, is by ignoring them and arbitraging data on chain.
Yeah, well,
do it.
I think that I think people will. I think there's in some ways it intensifies every year, but in other ways I think it does not, because you get more and more people who are frustrated. So like, it's like for example, at previous TabConf a year ago, Matt Corallo gave a big talk called "Lightning is Broken." He gave this very convincing talk about how broken it was, just shortly after I wrote this essay about Lightning Network fundamental limitations, of course. And then there was, but that's besides the point. The point is he gave us this big talk, Lightning is broken, and then everyone just kind of shrugs and just moves on. And it really did remind me of what a lot of people, like economists at the Federal Reserve, do, where they write a neat technical paper about something, but no one actually takes the idea seriously. And so, but that was then, and now this TabConf, we had more people just saying like, you know, we're lying to ourselves, we're doing the wrong thing. So I think that's a tangential point, but it's related to just how dogmatic people are, and how smart people are not going to be able to exist in that world. So they're not going to be able to thrive in that environment.
So yeah, I mean, the whole point of Bitcoin is for it to be Byzantine fault tolerant. And when you have people that declare themselves as like the supreme Byzantine generals over the protocol and the scaling of the network, and what you can and can't do as an entrepreneur, user, miner within the network, then at that point, I start questioning as to like, well, is this really Byzantine fault tolerant, right?
Well, you know, I kind of see it through like a psychological lens, where it's kind of like, what's the thing that is forbidden to say, like the sacred cow? And for a while it was lightning. Like you can't even say anything bad about lightning, or you just like get canceled. But then it's kind of like, that's the proof that is, you know, that is the mistake that will kill you, you know? And this is all because of the block size war. It formed into these two teams, as of course you know better than most.
Yeah, I was on the other team.
It's like it forms into two teams, and then if you say anything that even resembles the other team, then you're cast out. So then both of the teams have to become.
But Paul, I think Bitcoin should be an environment where we can disagree and have opposing perspectives to market discovery, and where like that's true Byzantine fault tolerance. Like, why can't you have your side chains? Why can't you have your drive chains?
It doesn't make any sense, because I worked very, very hard to make it the L1 footprint be like almost zero, basically, to the point where even using BIP 300 does not require that other people upgrade. So there's unused OpNob 5. It just counts to 13,000. It's an opt-in soft fork. You can run old node software that doesn't even enforce BIP 300. You could still use it as long as 51% of miners plus a few other users have upgraded. So it was like designed from the ground up to not change L1, like basically at all, but it still gets that criticism. And Peter Todd, in fact, he treats it as if it were and L1 block size increase. So to me, that just means that all of that stuff that they were saying about large blocks being bad was probably also just BS, honestly, at this point, even though I believe that L1 should have small blocks, but I just think probably many of those people were just like, it was just concern trolling or just some kind of other nonsense, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, welcome to the club, Paul. I know the pain. I know, like, everybody here, that's an OG Bitcoiner here understands what you're going through, because we all went through the same thing, where these literally everything you just said and described is exactly what we all experienced. You can even look at just reference everything that Mike Hearn said, right? And what he wanted in his vision for what he wanted it to do. Go back and like look at the history of SegWit 2x, right, where they were like kind of compromising, and with 2x, and all of a sudden the Bitcoin XT miners had like the biggest DDoS attack you could imagine, where even the ISPs were taken down.
People were taking it very seriously, but I think that was very different. I mean, that was the hard fork. This is a soft fork that actually had like a victim, because anyone who wanted to run a full node would have to do more work, and there would be historical. But mine, there really is no victim, because you don't even, as far as anyone knows, I could like go to the miners, we could like secretly activate BIP300 without anyone even realize. This is like a victimless crime, literally. BIP300 is a victimless crime, and it's like it's very bizarre that there's no sense of proportion, and there's no give, and like no one gives any credit for the fact that it is like, it does not change L1, but people act as though it does.
What's even more bizarre is that Peter Todd himself is right now going from conference to conference. He has not published it, but he's promoting a new protocol called Demiurge, where you get taxed directly into your Bitcoin wallet to subsidize miners.
Yeah, he believes in like tail emission inflation type thing, because he thinks that there won't be enough fees to cover security. And of course, it's so much easier to have that fee revenue if you either have L1 blocks, which I don't think is the way to go, but if you have many merge mined chains, then it's basically the same economic fee effect as if you did. So, because you have, on one hand, you charge 20 cents per transaction for like every transaction, you have to do that. Or you have to have, if it's a small number of transactions per 10 minutes, then they have to have a higher fee. So if it's like 1/100th of the transactions, the fee has to be, instead of 20 cents, no, it has to be $20.
So right now, this phenomenon has started within Bitcoin, where Bitcoiners are coming together and literally ignoring those people. Like a lot of us, since the Civil War, we've just ignored them, and we've been building and having fun, and we are creating really cool stuff. And obviously, you can see that with what's happening with Ordinals. So have you? And this is something I've been meaning to ask you. Have you thought about merging, like entering with drive chains through the Ordinals protocol somehow?
No, I haven't really thought about that. I'm focused on like, I got like my own like sort of battle here, but I honestly didn't realize how far, like the termites had spread, so to speak, or how long and well they had dined. But it's like, the way I see it is, well, it's kind of like Ordinals to me is not, fun is good, and people are taking a lot of stuff way too seriously in a bad way. Like they care about, if someone buys block space, they care about how they use it, but they don't care about like, they don't care about like other things that they should care about, like Ethereum paying much more fees total than BTC. It's having more paying customers, or just general like attitude of permissionless. The story is really one of Bitcoin Core in its present form is like absolutely perfect, and we somehow know that that's the case, and we know that no one could ever want anything new. And it's just, it has become kind of like, it has become like this view that everyone buys Bitcoin, they do nothing, and then everyone gets rich and we all get a Citadel. Like that's the idea, but it's something like anyone who's trying to improve Bitcoin is like an attack on that idea at all, or do anything new with Bitcoin. It's like an attack on that idea, because it shows you that it takes hard work to make it into number one. But so there's this weird story has infected everyone. The story of just buy Bitcoin and do nothing.
Yeah, that's the opposite attitude we have around here. As Bitcoiners, we believe that we need to not just do something, but we need to do something together constantly. So the mantra that we have is that we build on-chain, open source, and interoperably, and we create things that embrace the bell curve, both sides of the bell curve. You know, the extreme, like Jedi Knight, like making sure things are fun, like well done. But once we know the infrastructure of Bitcoin is well done, we have the freedom to go degen, complete left side of the bell curve, and really embrace the masses where they're at by having fun, by becoming dopamine drug dealers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's
fun
cool.
is good, and of course, like one thing, yeah, I don't like. I'm not like a super into ordinals or inscriptions or whatever personally, but I do think like, again, it's like it's clearly something that people do. Hal Finney wrote about crypto trading cards. It's like everyone. It's just whenever anyone has come up with something, they come up with colored coins, come up with counterparty, they come up with whatever you want to call it, you know, NFTs, ICOs. So this is clearly something that people enjoy, and I just, you know, I'm not really like into it per se. It's like art. It's like the art market for me, where I like art, but I don't really understand the art market. But it's like it seems fun. It's kind of like I don't understand the like when Udi would like wear the wizard's costume, and then the guy is like just yelling at him, like saying like, "How dare they disgrace the conference?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like what are these people talking about? Like they just seem possessed." And you know, the other thing is like I think a lot of it's fake too. Like it's like a very small number of people who have like, you know, it's like a bot farm or something. Like many of the people, yeah, like on Twitter, you could tell like they have all this stuff that's like ChatGPT tweets at regular intervals has 0 likes, and then they, you know, it's like a lot of bot farming going on. I think it's all just like it's all very strange. I think I'm not sure what to make of it all. But yeah, I think Ordinals is kind of harmless, but I also think Ordinals is kind of tame. So sorry for this rambling answer, but you were like, can you merge Ordinals and Drive Chain? I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I have like a big thing to work on. So, but I think it's great that Ordinal people are pushing back against every cult hates fun because fun is loyal to each individual member, and fun also likes novelty. Cult cannot handle too much novelty or too much like individualism. Those are both bad. So the cults have never been fun, and they never will be fun. And haven't you noticed that? Isn't this like very, very easy? You're throwing me the hundreds. It's like Bitcoin used to be much more fun, and now there's this weird shame and guilt that just hangs over everything. And it's like really not. It's nowhere near as fun as it used to be.
Yeah, you got to ignore those people, completely ignore them, and build anyways. Don't ask for permission, just go. The fact that like you have to position yourself in a way to actually get their approval, in my opinion, that's why like a lot of us said, you know, fuck that. We will only work on BTC in a way where we don't have to ask them for permission. So like our keynote speaker at the conference tomorrow, Jack Liu, you know, like out of nowhere, him, the guys from Twitch, a bunch of BSV guys, guys from Solana, from Ethereum, from all over the space, they came into BTC and they developed a thriving on-chain economy, a native Bitcoin economy. Within a week, they had marketplaces going using partially signed Bitcoin transactions. Like you don't have to, like that's the way to do this. Like we have to like you are leading. What you're doing, Paul. You're really showing what is at the heart of all of this, and it's almost like we already know that this contingent of people are like completely, they've rooted themselves and they are like politicians that, you know, that are like 95 years old and they still don't want to resign. You know, that's what you got with these people. They've rooted themselves into Bitcoin like that. You know, it's a power play really. Whereas like our understanding of Bitcoin is that we're athletes like miners, and you are as good as you were in the last 10 minutes. And we all go through a prime, and it's a completely different mindset. So, you know, it's do you see drive chains taking off, BIP 300 and 301 taking off on BTC?
Well, I think so, but you know, it'll be an interesting. I think like there's one path where it could take like 6 months, and I think there's another path where it could take like 3 years or something. I do think that the 6 month version is like a lot of people just realize that they wake up to like how bad it is that everything has to go through like a basically paralyzed Bitcoin core review system versus like we're going to try to put out some stuff where we put out the Zcash sidechain and the Ethereum sidechain and my project Bitcoin Hive Mind. We're going to try to have all this stuff, Namecoin thing. We're going to try to put all this stuff out and have it be easy to use. That's the goal. And then people at that point will start to get it, I think. And I think another facet of it is that, I am like enormously popular among most OGs, and we have the layer2labs.com friends list. And the other path would be like, people start to look into it more because of the controversy, and then they just kind of realize that the controversy is like really based on nothing, like, and then they kind of like there's like a big backlash. So it's weird because I get a lot of supportive messages from OGs, sort of like privately, but you know how people are. They don't want, because this is the cult that has been built. It's been like this weird shame thing. And everyone has to like, it's like, it's kind of weird. The idea is it's too good of an idea, Drive chain. It's like, it fixes everyone's problems. It has no costs really. The only risks are if the user opts into risk, they opt into whatever technology stack they want consensually and unilaterally. And it's so good that it highlights the fact that there are a bunch of people, there's a bunch of dead weight, and it gets rid of that, and that's where it's just too good. And since it's too good, it has political problems, I suppose. But it's also the case that I think it's kind of a confusing issue. Like people don't really understand. You and I, we've been talking for years and years and years, but a lot of people like they just heard about this, so they're like, what? They're like, I often get questions like, is there literally going to be Zcash, the altcoin, like on Bitcoin, like the Zcash drive chain? Like, does that mean there's Zcash, the coin? Which is, of course, like a complete and total failure to understand the idea, like negative 100%. But I can kind of see how someone who just heard about it, like whatever in August, would be like, they can't wrap their head around the idea. It's weird how different it has become. Where this used to be a central tenet, this is referred to as a holy grail. Even the sidechain idea was like, it was just taken for granted. It's taken for granted that like Blockstream would kill altcoins with sidechains, but now every step of that argument is like this weird premise. It's like that people will fight you on every step of the way. Like people now, they'll say things like, it's funny, before, back in 2015, people would say, we can build all this stuff with sidechains. But now people will say, now that actually that stuff exists and Ethereum has millions of dollars in fees a day, now that all this stuff exists, people say like, they say like, no one would ever use that. Now that we have all the usage staring us in the face, they say, well, none of that's real. Or they say, well, and again, like Lightning was, everyone had high, including me, very high hopes in 2015, but now again, it's sort of like, people are saying we have to change it into ARC, or it'll always be custodial, or whatever. So
now the Lightning Network was always a stupid idea, and anybody that understood Bitcoin from day one knew that it was a dumb idea, and that's why it's an utter failure.
Well, I think the duplex payment channels, that's certainly like a channel between A and B. That is like kind of a solid idea, and that's one of Satoshi's ideas. But the inside of the Lightning Network, which is a very creative idea, was that you could have A have a channel with B have a channel with C, and then B could like route trustlessly with these like HTLCs. But I think that idea is not going to pan out. And
You probably got to get yourself a few some things together. You got to have secret energy. Yeah. Woo! Let's get this party going. TCV, Tailgate, Ordinals Summit, baby. Here we go. So we got rugged, and that was weird. We've never been rugged like that before. And guess who was trying to get up on stage right before we got rugged, and we wouldn't allow them to get up on stage? Take a wild guess. Members of the core team. Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, we should let them up. Who was it?
It was Luke Dasher, bro, and some other dude. Yeah.
Fine.
And I was like,
Who's the other dude?
nah, bro, but like I went through the Bitcoin Civil War. I know how this shit is, man. And no, dude, we want to listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the one that has something creative. You're the one that wants to give Bitcoiners an opportunity to have the ability to co-create an on-chain economy, on-chain economies, right? So that's why, we value you and want to hear more about you and your journey and what you're going through.
Okay, well, I'm happy to share whatever you'd like to know. You and I have known each other for a very long time, so I'm sure you're having a lot of fun wherever you are at your event.
Well, it's a virtual summit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you know what, dude? Just because of that, because I assume the worst, that they made a phone call. Hey, shut it down. Crypto Vigilante is giving Paul Storch too much air to talk about the truth that he's living through.
I don't think so.
All right?
The app has
You're an honorary guest tomorrow.
Recently.
You're an honorary guest tomorrow to the TCV Summit, and I want to ask you questions. Okay? I want to ask you
I'll
questions.
try. I got a lot to do tomorrow, but I'll try to make it. And I don't have that much time tonight, but I'm happy to hang out with you guys for a little bit, answer some of the best questions.
Right on. Yeah, so dude, it's definitely a social engineering Sybil attack that we went through during the Bitcoin Civil War. So that's something that I'm used to. That's something that I'm doing, and that it shouldn't surprise anyone that lived through it, right? So yeah, man.
Well, I think it was tough. It was a tough split back then because I don't think that you don't think the large blockers had it. They didn't have the majority, so it was it wasn't a good. It was not because what it was the hard fork was too difficult of a sell, and it's not, as it kind of should be, because what large blockers were saying at the time, they were saying something like, we'll hard fork to 8 megabytes today, and then we'll figure it out later. But I think a lot of people were kind of that doesn't make, that's not enough of a plan. Each time you hard fork, you could lose people. So I think those were the big downsides. And so I think that made it really difficult to win. No matter how good the idea was, just because it was conceived as a hard fork, it actually didn't matter. I think the idea was also not great though, because you could do the optional large blocks on, you do layer 2 large blocks on top of layer 1 small blocks, but you can't really do the reverse. So I think that was also, all that stuff made it difficult. And of course it's very easy, it's a very easy sell for for people to be we must all work together to, protect Bitcoin, because it's kind of people want to take credit for, Bitcoin's success, when really it was mostly Satoshi's work. But everyone wants to be it's me and my node, we did this together. That's why I got a 10,000x return on investment. And it's it was mostly Satoshi, and your own decision to invest.
Right. A lot of that is an illusion in itself. You know what I'm saying? To think that you running a non-mining node actually accomplishes anything other than being a personalized block explorer. And
it gives you a view of the network. So it's a blockchain explorer, but that's a good thing. That lets you know whether or not, that's the only way to measure confirmations by yourself, per se. I mean, of course, you can always hope that someone else is measuring them for you, and all the usual methods of comparing what different people say and cross-referencing them, cross-examining them. But yeah, Well, that's the difference between that previous dispute and sort of this event, which is that there was really that was like a win-lose situation where someone was going to get large blocks and it was either going to be, the blocks can't be large and small at the same time, but this time they have to be. This time it's a soft fork, so everyone would be on the same network, whether they were using BIP 300 or not, or whether they're using, sidechain number 5 or not, or whatever. So it's very different now.
You know what the weirdest thing about this all is that I was one of the only investors that got a message when Blockstream was raising capital, when supposedly they told us it was led by Adam Back. And they sold us the idea of sidechains. They sold us the idea of sidechains back then, literally. Almost like to put your guard down, like, oh, okay, we'll be able to, in Bitcoin, we'll be able to enter into this Hayekian approach to scaling because we're going to have sidechains.
Of course, yeah. That's what and that was also kind of like why back then they had this superstitious belief that sidechains would never be able to be used for scaling because they believed in this O(n) squared thing that I'm sure you remember, where they just think everyone on the network has to broadcast their transaction to everyone else, so it's like this n squared thing, and no blockchain of any size will ever be efficient as the n grows. And so they always thought that sidechains would not be useful for scaling. But you did think like, okay, we're going to have like an NXT sidechain or like an Ethereum sidechain that was RSK, that was rootstock. And that was they also raised money in 2015. And there's going to be like a whatever, there's going to be like an NXT sidechain or something. So that was what everyone was told, and that was kind of what everyone believed.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate that things are turning out the way they are, but at the same time, the positive aspect in what we've seen is that if you want to be a Bitcoin entrepreneur, you can't ask permission. You have to figure out how to arbitrage data on chain in a frictionless, permissionless way, and that's what we're doing with Ordinals, right? Because there's no way we're going to go through that, bureaucracy and hypocrisy. When it has in BTC history. Has anything ever happened that has gone against the desires of the core devs? It has never happened.
Well, I mean, you just said Ordinals it happened. So, like, things happen.
That's because we hacked our way into it. That's why.
The fact that,
they can't stop us.
I think Samurai using BIP 47 or whatever, that also happened. Like, some things happen. Remember, BIP 47 got, like, raked over the coals, but it was really not that bad. And we would have all had reusable addresses. So it doesn't matter how convenient it is for the end user. If it makes the first transaction between two people like 18% larger, then that is, that's spamming the blockchain.
And who are you to tell me what transaction is spam or not?
I know that was, I don't really get it. It's not very Bitcoin-y.
No, not at all. It's not even the false ethos, bro. Like, the whole point of Alex and Bob is so that I don't have to go through freaking Eve. And here devs to me are Eve, the freaking eavesdropper. Why does Eve have to get in the way between me as a merchant or me as an entrepreneur and my audience when the miners process my transaction?
I like that. That's a funny idea that they are like the trusted third party or whatever. It's all co-signed by them. It's a funny idea, but I think it's not like that I think there's a lot of like fear. They feel it's like the FDA, where it's kind of like they would get blamed if something went wrong. And as long as it goes right, and a lot of people just kind of think, well, this will just keep going up and up in value. So they can kind of get credit for that and just kind of ride it to the top. And, they have a very, and I say they, but I should really say we, because I'm like in on the, I'm on the take. Like, so to speak, where people like they pay for your flight, you travel all around the world, you go to these cool places, everyone is being really nice to you, you get a lot of respect, and that's what most people consider to be like a top 1% life, or like a top 0.01% life. It's like a good life. You get money, you have total autonomy. Like, who knows what most like Bitcoin technical people are, like, who could even have oversight over that? That's why sidechains, add competition where there's really not very much, because there's no one knows if if someone opens a pull request and it gets merged and it should have been rejected, or if someone opens a pull request and it gets rejected and it should have been merged, it's like there's no like, no one knows. Everyone, all the Bitcoin users are just mystified by what people do. So a lot of people you have this great job, you get a lot of money, you can travel around the world, you have no oversight, you can't be fired. So people buy you things, they buy you like, business class air travel, and they buy you bottles of wine, and all this has happened to me. So it's kind of nice, and you just kind of the price of Bitcoin just kind of goes up and up and up because of our crazy governments are printing money and they have literally no plan for like long run fiscal stability. So like it's kind of like the incentives are to not like the incentive is to just kind of keep going along with what you might call peer review, the technical community's status quo and kind of orthodoxy.
And that's bullshit. You know why that's bullshit? Because it's bringing in.
It's bad for
you know why that's bullshit, right? Is because what you're describing is how the core devs gave themselves a perpetual job as becoming like the guardians of the protocol, where the protocol only changes according to their dict or permission.
It would be very bad if they change and then it breaks, then they would get blamed. So, but whereas if it's kind of like it
can't. We had competing implementations to Bitcoin, right? Like before 2017, we had competing implementations to Bitcoin, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Well, it's actually quite difficult because you can't, if you have a different implementation, and it's really a popularity contest, because if one says 2 + 2 = 4 and the other says 2 + 2 = 3, but everyone is running the one that says 2 + 2 = 3, then it's just a popularity contest. And so you actually want to be on the network that most other people are running, and that's why the C++ Qt Bitcoin Core version you can't get away from that one. And that's the network effects are strong. The network effects of money are very strong because you do live by the fork, die by the fork. You do a hard fork for a little feature, then someone does that feature to you. It's happened countless times. So you do Bitcoin Cash, but then people are doing Bitcoin Gold, Bitcoin Diamond, whatever, and then you say Bitcoin Cash for larger blocks. Bitcoin SV does even larger blocks, and then it's kind of like it splits the vote. So the network effects are tough. They keep you in, and so that it is like a big kind of a monopoly. But yeah,
but the thing is that you can't change. It's really hard to change the infrastructure in BTC as you're personally experiencing. But it's really easy, man. We live in the attention economy, and the market innovation moves at the speed of thought now. So it's a lot easier to move liquidity and attention than it is to change the infrastructure of BTC from within. So all it takes is for people to realize that, oh my gosh, look at what these forks are doing. And for those forks to become more profitable, all it takes is an application to go viral like friend.tech on any of these forks, and all of the attention will go there. And next thing you know, people, this is the thing you have to realize, that the Bitcoin forks can take along with them the entire infrastructure of BTC itself. It's an existential threat, and they know that. And what's happening right now is that they see you as a gateway drug to that existential reality that they have to face, because they're dealing with digital lead, and they know it. They know that their biggest enemies are themselves, that they're standing in their own way because of their fear. So when people have an uncertain future, they have to either act like an engineer to socially engineer the future, because they're so scared, right, of the future, of uncertainties, that they have to design everything perfectly. So like you said, because they don't want to be blamed for anything. Or they can be reckless gamblers. We shouldn't be reckless gamblers. But what you're proposing, and I think it's because of your background as a statistician, what you're proposing is, hey, let's be good as speculators. Let's speculate with side chains. Let's figure out what's best for Bitcoin, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with having a Hayekian approach to market discovery. And I applaud you for trying, but it's like, man, you're tough, Paul. You really are tough. Like, man, you're putting up a good fight. Wow.
Well, the network effect thing is network effects are big. So most people want to use whatever their friend is using. And that adds up to the number one coin staying number one. And that strategy has worked overall. But as you say, it's also fragile because, if some other non-network effects feature is good, then though you can eventually get more users than BTC has right now, since it's a finite number. You know, it's not like they have. It's BTC is not doesn't have like more 4.1 billion people or just infinite people or whatever. So the weird thing is that is the exact risk that sidechain was completely disabled. They'd say like a non-network effect feature, but still they don't want to do it. They're not like they should be like champing at the bit to like merge it in as quickly as possible, so that it's impossible that some other thing could become popular. And
You
then
are the only thing saving BTC. You are the only thing saving BTC, and the fact that they don't recognize it is like mind blowing to me. You're literally, you just said it, man. You're the only thing that could save BTC from competition, because things can change right away. How long did it take ChatGPT to get? How fast did ChatGPT grow? Jack Lewis here. How fast was it? It was like we got like over 1 million.
It's a very interesting case because
crazy.
It was something that had already existed, and they just kind of put like a little bit of like a front end on it, and then it had like has a good name, you know, it's like a short, memorable name, and yeah, and then it like changed all of our lives, like, you know, in like inside of 14 days or something, and now it's just a part of life, and everyone now is using it. I can tell when people are using it to like they're gonna write like a wedding speech, or they're going to write an FAQ with it or something. You can kind of tell, but now everyone's gonna use it. I think it's great. I feel terrible for all those kids in K through 12. They have to write essays now. That whole problem is just gone. But yeah, that's the point. Is things change very quickly, I think, and the network effect. If BTC is relying on network effect, then it's like once you lose that, it will be a very, very painful, because it breaks the narrative. It says BTC is unkillable, and then it says, wait a minute. Now it's replaced, and then it's like, what else was Michael Saylor wrong about, or whatever. So, but yeah, as you know, I'm sticking with the #1 coin for the network effect. The network effect reason's big. I mean, we have the QWERTY keyboard, we have people speak English. Why do people speak English? Because everything's in English. All the movies,
because of freedom. No, Paul, it's because of freedom. Because the English language is the one that is the most, that has adopted libertarian values the most across the planet, creating markets. So it's allowed for commerce the most. That's why we speak English. Actually, there's more people that in the world that, if we're going by population, there's a ton of people that speak Mandarin over English, right? So like, we speak English because of the network effects caused by the culture of freedom that opens up the markets for commerce. That's why we speak English. But BTC, BTC, what does it allow you to do, man? BTC as a protocol is dependent on externalities. You don't want a crypto world dependent on Wall Street and big tech. And that's literally where they pigeonholed us.
The layer 1 should be simple, and it should just be used for settling among L2s that people actually work. But the problem is the L2s don't exist right now. So
wait, you mean it's been over 8 years, and we've had big tech and VC money and conferences all over the planet being thrown on the Lightning Network, and you're telling me that we're not 100%? Oh wow, what a shock, right? What if this is all a part of a plot? And I got to get conspiratorial, right? Because otherwise I'm not a libertarian. To manipulate and to control, to tame Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is a bigger fucking animal than anyone. And you know this, Paul. That's why you're pushing for side chains, for drive chains. You know this.
No, Bitcoin is the best. I think they say the same thing about you. Like if we go to the small blocker group, and I sort of identify as a small blocker for a variety of reasons, as I've explained. But if the small blocker group will say, this is a plot to like take over large corporations or whatever, going to take over Bitcoin. So it kind of, everyone's saying that about everyone,
Well, let us compete. Let everyone compete on the network, right? And that's why you see.
And that used to be something that kind of everyone sort of believed, I thought. Like, for example, when the drive chain post first came out, it was like sticky on our Bitcoin. Luke Dash Jr. made posts about it back in, I think, like early 2017. He made posts about, listen, we could have we can have both people in the same network, a large block optional sidechain and small block layer 1. And so it was a more popular idea back then. And then a lot of weird other stuff. You know how a lot of the weird, just like bad luck, and then people are focused on Lightning, and then of course the split, the BCH BTC split kind of made everyone. It soured everyone on miners. It soured everyone on cooperation. Everyone was like, "What we should do instead of cooperating, we should just insist that that was the lesson everyone learned from Segwit 2x and from the block size war was that in BTC, the lesson was taught like it's because we did not change. We didn't take the bait. We didn't take the juicy carrot. We didn't take the juicy carrot and get that 2x or whatever, and we were rewarded with $19,000 a coin. So that's the
wait. The 2x was attacked to the point that the ISPs were brought down.
Yeah, but I'm saying the network split and the network split, and then it was like December of 2017 that we had like the all-time high. So everyone was like, "Oh, this is great. I love this." Then we had all this, then it's been sideways until like COVID. COVID really, that was some serious monetary policy. There's easy money, and then there's COVID-19. Just like a complete free-for-all. The loans, the PPE loans or whatever they're called, they were just gifts. You didn't have to pay those loans back. The Fed. So I mean, how can Bitcoin not moon? That's like the most accommodative Bitcoin policy in the universe.
Well, I mean, Bitcoin was supposed to moon because it's a Bitcoin that is tameable by big tech and Wall Street, right? We had a dude named Jack Dorsey that was literally censoring the president of the United States on this platform when he ran it. And a couple months later, they were paying homage to this megalomaniac at the BTC conference in Miami. I called out David Bailey. Dude picked up the phone and called me for 4 hours. And you know what the conclusion of the conversation with me and David was? That yes, the future will be a SHA-256 coin, but there's no way of knowing for sure if it's going to be BTC. And it's for the reason I told you. It's a lot harder to change infrastructure once it's fucked than it is to get attention and liquidity. And we live in a world that moves at the speed of thought. So what you're doing and what you're offering BTC is what BTC needs. And it's, again, a shame and sad that they're giving you so much hell for it, because any Bitcoin fork with all it takes is one app like a friend.tech. Or just one app, very well executed.
Funny that you're saying you're saying, oh, any app like one that already exists and that already like has users. It's like, so people say like, yeah, I really do think that there will be a killer app, and so I think there will be, like, I'm not sure exactly what it'll be. I used to say ransomware was the Bitcoin killer app. I got a big kick out of saying that. Now I'm like a little older, and I feel like that's a really mean thing to say, but I still kind of believe it. I was like, I thought ransomware was a Bitcoin killer app. Like scammers, they always want BTC. Although recently now people like Monero for that type of thing. But I used to say ransomware was the Bitcoin killer app because I was like, you need Bitcoin in order to use it. But I think there will be something else that involves like proof of work, like media, like people's attention. And it's going to be very hard to figure out exactly what it is, but I do think, like, authentication is bad. So many things are bad, and so, like, the namespace idea, digital art, I don't think any of these are it, but I think we won at some point. And but it is very social, so the network effects are very strong with money. It's tough. It's very tough. Anyway, I feel like I have to go kind of in, like, maybe 10 minutes or so, but if we can get, maybe if we want, like, top 3 questions, or if we want like an audience question, or if we want whatever we got, I'm happy to hang out for a little while. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure, dude. What do you foresee happening with drive chains in the near future?
Well, it could go in 2 different ways. Like I was saying, like I think it could. People could flip on it once they understand the idea. So all the attention it gets could lead to, and I think what I have to do is we have to put out this nice demo software and then people run it for themselves, which we have some, but we're always making it better. So I always want to wait until it's really nice, but we have some. You can go to drivechain.info/releases. And that'd be key because then people would get it. And then I'm not sure how many of those people would be able to kind of like understand what's going on under the hood and that it's not bad, because anyone can just probably say, oh, wait a minute. Why is this good? This is just someone running every node or something, which that's not what it is. So I'm not sure how many of those people will get it, but I think so. There's a possibility that people get it. And I think people will continue to look for critiques, but the critiques are just not very good. The critiques are really weird nonsense, like miners might make a little bit more money, or the user might choose what security model they have their own money in. So those are all kind of weird. And I think if people learn a lot about it, they will really get into it more, and it will then become like get enormous momentum. And certainly the miners they benefit enormously because they're kind of like heads they win, tails in situation with drive chains. So I think they would, if we have a situation where it's popular and then people understand the idea, then that's the easy way. And then I think another way it could go would be for it to just, it gets a lot of interest now, and then it kind of has to fade away, kind of like what happened with Jeremy Rubin, where like you have to leave, like I have to like push for it and then stop pushing for it. And then I would say like three years from now, like people would, all these other things would be happening. Like Ethereum is going to continue to increase its daily fees, whereas BTC will not. Certainly not the L1 BTC fees. I think they are, although other people, see, that's the other thing that could happen is many people believe in the fee apocalypse, such as my friend Moonsettler. He thinks that the fee or whatever, like a bunch of different people do, but they think the fees will go up and stay up for some reason. And this will lead to angry users and some kind of like search for a solution to the problem of the fee apocalypse. And so that could happen. So more stuff could be invented. It's kind of hard to say. But
let me articulate this question a little better so that you can like hone your brain, your mind into it a little better. What are the top 3 critiques of drive chains right now, and why are they misconceptions?
Yeah, one big one is the miners can steal one, but that's just what that's basically saying is that people hate proof of work. They don't know that that's what they're saying, but that is what they're saying. They're saying because if the miners are dedicated, they can reorg the chain, they can hold UTXOs hostage, they can hold liquid hostage, liquid withdrawal transactions hostage, they can censor ZK. So the miners can steal is not overblown, to say the least. The miners have slightly more control in drive chain than they do in other L2s, but every L2 can be stolen from by the miners, including the Lightning Network. They just censor the justice transaction. If you don't believe me, as many people don't, then take it from Rene Picard, author of Mastering Lightning. He also says that in public numerous times and also on various mailing lists. So it's just that simple. So that one's a misconception because the other reason why that one's a misconception is the user should be able to choose whatever security level they wish to have. So if they want to do something that is insecure, then that should be up to them. It's no different than if they sold their Bitcoin for an altcoin or sold their Bitcoin for a car or deposited on FTX or whatever like that. So it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. And that one is a complete and total misconception. There's plenty of reasons to believe the miners will not steal, just like they don't steal from the Lightning Network today. They will want the fees. They will want to have a large and growing fees, and it's just that simple. The second misconception is that it is bad. This is called like centralizing mining, even though this doesn't actually do that at all. So it's called like they think that the logic goes something like this: miners will be compelled to run the sidechains. They will then the sidechain software will be burdensome to run, and then miners will be burdened. And they won't like this. But this is like completely and totally wrong in like every step of the way. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, so the miners only run the software if it's profitable. So they're far from being burdened. Their lives are being improved. There's no way that the node software can be expensive because regular users have to run it. 0% hash rate people will be running it if they just want to measure confirmations or whatever. So that's it's not even possible. If the node is burdensome, then the miners will just partner with someone who has a node. It's a blind versus mining idea. So the whole thing is like a farce, and it actually decentralizes mining because there's certain things like the Zcash sidechain, like a KYC style miner they'll resist. They won't want to mine that, and so it will encourage mining to actually be like more subversive. The more transaction fees that go into, the more transaction fees that people obtain from helping the network be a success and have users get what they want, the more they get money from that, the less they'll care about money that they get from other sources, such as like the riot use of curtailment credits, where the government of Texas basically pays them to not mine when the energy prices are a certain way, when there's a certain load on the grid. So they won't be swayed by any kind of side hustle if they're making a ton of money running transactions for users. And there's plenty of sidechains that sort of decentralize mining, honestly. So that one's completely fake. I don't know. The third one, I honestly have no idea. I think people just make up random stuff. I think I don't know. There's none of the critiques really make any sense. The only thing that makes any sense is that maybe this idea won't be popular, and I'll have wasted everyone's time and attention with the idea. But again, even that is a situation where you can look at the number of fee-paying users of other chains, which is much higher than BTC's fee-paying users, and of course the potential for just scaling transactions alone is, we don't have 8 billion people using BTC, so yeah, I don't know. All the critiques are bad. I could just go through some, like the MEV. People bring up MEV, but MEV is just a minor side hustle. It's unrelated. I think what happened was one of my critics who has constantly lied about the project and also will like delete tweets or spaces after they're refuted and do all kinds of other dishonest nonsense. Basically a total fraud of a person. I think what happened was they saw that there was this MEV thing happening on Ethereum. They saw that we had an Ethereum sidechain, so they just kind of assumed that something similar on Ethereum would happen on the sidechain, but they never understood what was going on with that, so they misunderstood it completely. And it has no effect on doesn't have the effect they think. It's just using a bad word. People bring up UASF, but they didn't read in the post, in like all the work that I have written in my FAQ and in the original blog post about how TriChain doesn't rely on any UASFs, and in fact it's coded so that even if there is a UASF, it has no downsides. And there's a lot more to say about that as well, such as if you soft fork against the miners, you are actually breaking the heaviest chain rule, so it's actually always a hard fork if you do that. And so it's not even possible to have a UASF interfere with drive chain in a way. So it's just on and on and on. It's all just a bunch of nonsense, and it's like it's really telling that you can have an idea this good and still have it be controversial. It reveals something bizarre about the way the politics of Bitcoin works, because this idea should give everyone exactly what they want. Very minimal L1 footprint. The whole idea is optional itself, and yet it lets people escape to other pieces of software. I think it's just the clearest possible demonstration of that something is really wrong with Bitcoin. That it's not like just don't roll out the red carpet and just merge it immediately and activate it immediately and start using it immediately.
So what is wrong with Bitcoin?
I think, well, I don't actually know. It's an interesting question. But I think it would go something like there's no incentive. Like it was like the FDA example I was telling you before. If they are very cautious, then that's good. And no one wants to rock the boat, so to speak. But even something like what I'm doing that doesn't rock the boat, if it just kind of even looks like it might rock the boat. Like, for example, I don't think someone told me who gets a lot of stuff merged into Bitcoin. They told me that BIP 119, Jeremy Rubin's BIP, which a lot of people like. They said, well, none of his stuff will ever be merged into Bitcoin Core, and it has nothing to do with the tech. It's just that people don't like Jeremy, and which is like overtly anti-meritocratic. Like if someone else said with regards to the BIP 300 pull request into Core, someone else, similar situation where someone has a lot of stuff merged into Bitcoin Core. They said like they won't touch it, anything that's controversial. So they won't close the pull request. They won't open it. They won't comment on it. They'll just do nothing if it's controversial. So you have a situation where I think it's a very strong. There's a very strong incentive to just go along with whatever they're doing, and because it's like it's a big party, and BTC is number one, and it grows a lot. So why? If you do anything, if you put anything out of line, there is a lot of consensus, human consensus, which is of course the bad kind. So that's what I would say is wrong with it.
Man, if only there was an on-chain meritocratic dynamic, that uses proof of work to solve things, so we can get out of this political.
It's kind of ironic that BIP300 is the solution to its own problem, in addition to being the solution to so many other problems, which is that it cannot. There's no easy way to. The weird thing, though, the really bizarre thing about BIP300 is that you could already do it today in a very inefficient way. One way, for example, is you could just have the miners declare that they would honor certain transactions as if BIP300 were being enforced, and then we just have basically BIP300 plus miner trust, and then you'd have it today unilaterally.
Dude, this sounds so fucked to me, man.
Really hacky way. So you could do it. So it's like not only is it a good idea, but it's also kind of like an inevitable idea, and the idea that people would be fighting it is just doubly absurd because it has no victim and it has enormous potential. All it does is reassign unused OpNop 5, so you could just soft fork that to being unusable, like unused again. It would never be used again. We're not using it now, so it would literally just be like a Control Z. So it has like zero risk, it has enormous upside, and it's also inevitable. So the people who are against it, I think they're just kind of like tilting their hand as to like what sheep they are or something, I guess. I don't know. But again, you have to focus on, you go to the layer2labs.com/friends list, and you see that we have a great list. It's just kind of a bizarre situation. Anyway, you ask what's wrong, I think that's the answer. It's just too much consensus among the people. You never want consensus among humans. That's very bad. Only among full nodes.
Yay, mining nodes, yeah, with proof of work that extend the ledger and have an incentive to secure the network. This is bizarre, man. I can't believe this is happening. Wow.
Well, you make it because the miners are looking into it now. Miners hearing about it for the first time, like only recently, literally many of them only heard about it the first time, like late, like August 1st-ish. So now they're catching up, and so I don't know. Like it only takes activating a soft fork is pretty easy. It's you only need like one of the two votes, so to speak. You need either users or miners. You just one of the two.
Well, look, what happened during the Bitcoin Civil War is that miners didn't have economic pressure to make a vote, to actually choose, because they were all living from the block reward subsidy, whatever. So it was a politically driven, miners were lazy back then. It's like they were living off like the subsidy that Satoshi left them. Okay, cool, whatever. But as that block reward decreases, they're put into financial pressure and they have to choose. BIP300 makes perfect sense for them, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it definitely doesn't have any risk for them because even in the situation where it stops working, they're the ones taking all the coins. So the coins from the L2. So there's really like no downside for them, like at all. And there's a lot of upside for them because all they have to do is very, very, very little, and they will be able to obtain a large and growing quantity of transaction fees forever, which we already see. Bitcoin, it's whatever, like 500,000 a day, but Ethereum, it's 7.2 million a day. So that's money. This is like the money that you would be getting as a miner. Normally you give anything to get like a 10% increase in revenue. This is like literally like a 500x. All things considered, long term, it's like a huge increase in revenue. So they will eventually. But you see, the miners also, they don't want to get involved with any politics because of the block size war. So it's kind of a weird irony that one of the terrible outcomes of that was that it set the precedent that any kind of competition or dissent is very bad. So that's
Competition is supposed to fortify Bitcoin. Competition, and that's actually the benefit of being in a Byzantine fault tolerant network. Miners in themselves are in a competitive relation to one another. As entrepreneurs on chain, as entrepreneurs in Bitcoin, we mirror the miners in the same way that the miners compete and cooperate with one another. That's how we interact as Bitcoiners. We cooperate and we compete at the same time. So it's the incentives as Bitcoiners are completely aligned into making Bitcoin better. This anti-miner rhetoric is really an anti-capitalist rhetoric that has existed for millennia. That says that you have to control the productive capacity of capitalist entrepreneurs or capitalist enterprise for the sake of fairness. It's just a new form of egalitarianism. It's a new form of socialism, of communism, really. It's like going up to GM and by decree telling GM that they can only produce 500,000 cars a year. Because if they can't produce more than 500,000 cars a year, then they're not allowing others to compete fairly. Because everyone is supposed to have the ability to compete in the market from, by creating cars in their garage. It's like this really anti-capitalist mentality, dude. I think that one of the biggest psyops in crypto history was this whole mantra of decentralization, where we find people, it's starting in Bitcoin, pronouncing themselves as the central planners that know best and know better than the market, where true decentralization comes from the market being completely open and everyone freely competing with one another. So it's a fear of it's literally putting power back into the equation of Bitcoin. It's really what happened. And it's interesting. Everything that you're living through is a good, clear case study of someone wanting to create something that's good for the network, that doesn't interrupt anything for the network. Because look, Paul, for a long time there, I was under the impression that the base, the main chain could change. So let's say if I have let's say a ZK chain that's a side chain, and it becomes the most popular chain in the network, that becomes the main chain. And the way that you have it is that no, it's almost like a compromise what you did. You're like, no, you guys can still keep your main chain. The BTC small, what I call the crippled, network that is dependent on externalities and crutches like second layers, that you can keep as your sacred, digital led cow. Sure, keep it. But in my impression of sidechains from day one, when we were pitched from Blockstream, literally it was, we can change, the main chain can change. That was part of the pitch back then, which gave us as entrepreneurs and investors the idea of like, okay, cool, this is a cool way to have a market-driven way of scaling Bitcoin for the market to decide. So if these guys are right and their approach is the best, well, cool, then that's going to be the main chain. If everyone migrates their Bitcoin to the chain that has bigger blocks, sure, then that would be the main chain. It's going to be a very a process of discovery, and we welcome that. We wanted that, and next thing you know, that never happened. Till you came in and you're like, you know what? I really need to do this myself because it never got delivered by Blockstream the way that they said they would. So it's like, here you are finally delivering to the market what said that they would when they were sourcing capital, and now you're getting extreme resistance when literally what you're offering is like the thing for the health of the network. So yeah, this is mind-boggling to me, dude. Guys, listen, I was one of the dudes that got the phone call from when they were leading the funding round for Blockstream. I got the pitch. I had access to all the pitches because I was leading the investor relations for the BitAngels network. So like I am very intimately, I understand what happened and what was proposed to the Bitcoin economy at the time. So it's just mind-boggling to me to see what's happening. I honestly thought, Paul, that BIP 300 was going to be received with open arms. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do know what you mean, because if you look at the objective content of it, it's like on L1, it's just a counter that counts to 13,000. So if that is going to kill BTC, we're all basically screwed, right? So that's all it takes. It's absurd. And yet it's the SPV proof idea with the incentives, the right incentives, that allows coins to travel to different pieces of software and back. And that opens up competition. And you would even think there's plenty of people you take something like a Barack who's invented ARC, there's no 119. But if we had BIP 300, you could spin up something that had 119 with real Bitcoin on it, and just start using ARC there tomorrow, just in preparation for 119 eventually being merged into the layer 1 chain or whatever. So, I mean, we have the Zcash sidechain already. We cloned it into a sidechain, and that's like the best privacy idea for Bitcoin that like could possibly exist.
Could you make one that is private by default with the Z addresses by default?
Well, I have a thought on that, which is that they're never really by default. So my view is you can always opt out. You know, you don't have to use any software. So they can always force you to use something other than BTC or something other than the Zcash. So I think that's not the best. But we did do something. We did something called Meltcast that I do think it was like user experience stuff to encourage getting the most out of privacy, the way Zcash does privacy, and the way that to stop the user from accidentally screwing up their privacy as they use Zcash. So I think, I mean, just Zcash, the fact that it gives everyone a reusable address, that's already that's already like way better. So there's all these things that would be cool. They would be very cypherpunky type things. You know, like the privacy concept is like, what's more cypherpunk than that? Nothing. And so you would think that all of these people would want it to roll out, but really, what has happened is there is this idea has spread that Bitcoin's success is inevitable, and that if you just buy Bitcoin, you know, there's like the investor advice, like subset of Bitcoin, you know, where people they post their theories, and of course, the theories compete in a Darwinian sense of whose theory can be the dumbest, because the theories compete on like how much self-gratifying delusion they can bring to people. So the theories compete on like, buy Bitcoin, it'll probably do really well. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. That was like the original pitch. But then it's like, Bitcoin is going to be worth 200K by conference day. Remember that? Just because it's a meme. And then it's like, Bitcoin's inevitably going to be worth $100 trillion or $300 trillion. And then it's like, nothing in the world could ever stop. It flipped from being don't invest more than you can afford to lose. It flipped to like, there is no way, mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin. There is literally no way that it could do anything other than go straight to billions of dollars per coin. So since they all compete on who can be the most optimistic and who can like suck up to the gullible listener the most, we have they have evolved, and now the biggest narrative, or at least the one that evolved to fixation or whatever, that narrative is the one that says Bitcoin is already going to succeed. And then if someone says, well, look, and we can do all this stuff to help it succeed, I'm now contradicting the narrative. So that's what I think part of it is. And plenty of people, I think, also they have competing projects. They're worried about their equity in. It's ironic they have like equity in some kind of company that has like a coming thing or whatever. But I think also, though, we should not get too miserable about it. I really think that it is also the case that many people just don't know anything about it because it's new and they're just learning about it for the first time recently. And of course, I have to stress, we actually do have many supporters, which I think the creme de la creme. And they're on that list that I mentioned, layer2labs.com/friends. And I think if you look at the list, it's like, it's a very good list. It's not, not everything up there is like a ringing endorsement, but, it's a good list, I think.
Yo, Paul, you know what, dude? As you were talking, dude, I got the sense that, like, I am so happy, dude. You have no idea how happy I am for cooking with my friends, with my fellow Bitcoiners in a permissionless way. And, we're doing it with Ordinals. We're doing it on BTC Ordinals. And a lot of us come from BSV. And it's so cool to be part of different networks, like also Darrow, Radiant, places where you can like just freely create, man, like permissionlessly, and have fun. It's just what I hear you talking, man, and it's like it just, I feel like this sensation, dude, and like in my chest, dude. Like, man, like I don't want to be part of a network like that, dude. Like that.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's
Top
like
down.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's why we're leaving, dude. I don't need like a government like structure where I have to ask for permission. That's just bizarre to me, dude. Like, I honestly, dude,
Or
like,
even something where it's like it's in the minor's best interest, but they're sort of like they really want to do it, but they're worried about politics. They say so. It's like literally now it's switched from being a meritocracy or just a like a kind of a profit maximizing, economically rational like decision to at least for now. When this again, it's the very early days, I think, but it's like a lot of it's like.
yeah, you want to hear a
People are
little
worried
secret?
about what will people think, even if those
You
people
want
don't own any Bitcoin or even any, let alone any mining equipment.
Hey, Paul, you want to know a little secret? Look at the transactions on BTC right now, and you'll notice that over 70% of them are from ordinals. Freedom, you can't keep freedom down. People will find a way to be free and to interact freely, permissionlessly, frictionlessly. And guess who are the main people behind ordinals? Guess who they are? They're big blockers, bro. That came back to the metropolis that became BTC, and they're making a shit ton of money by arbitraging data on chain. And they're very smart entrepreneurs who are building not just on BTC, but they're building in Solana, BSV, Bitcoin Cash. They're building everywhere, and they're gaining so much experience. They're creating these networks, dude. It's incredible.
Well, someone told me that.
They've already taken off, dude. That's the thing. The miners need to understand, and they will understand what I just told you, that the vast majority of transactions right now on BTC are ordinals. We're back.
Well, it's like people. It's funny because people told me that, like a prominent small blocker, and again, I consider myself a small blocker on L1, but this person who is a very very smart guy, but yeah, they pulled me aside. I think it was at like the Miami conference or something, and they told me like. They were like, yeah, like they were like a lot of we was like, where did all this stuff come from? Where did all this ordinal stuff come from? And they were like, that's what they were saying. They were just talking to them. They were talking to me, and they're just kind of talking out loud. And they're like, I tried to figure out where did all this come from? How did all this get built so quickly? And then they were like, oh, and then we figured it out. It's these Bitcoin SV guys. And yeah, I think Bitcoin SV I think. It's not a good product, but they were just like they dropped this kind of like they were like they pointed this out as though it's like the most amazing revelation in the world, and that it's like really significant, and that something like really really sinister must be happening. And I was like, oh, I kind of like went along with it a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. But and then I was like walking away from the person, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, I really do not care at all. Like, isn't it like a complete ad hominem attack on the software and the idea? Like, what difference does that make? And then I was like, just like anything, it's just no one is thinking about anything anymore. It's all just like a big.
Yeah, man, it's a bunch of us renegade Bitcoiners that never.
It's renegade Bitcoin. I love it.
Yeah, we're renegade Bitcoiners that never gave up on the totality of everything Satoshi gave us, all of the opcodes he gave us, and we've been playing with this technology for over 5 years in this forbidden place called BSV, which is like the Antarctica of crypto, where you can't go. You're not allowed to go there. A boat won't even take you there. Planes can't fly there, right? It's forbidden, right? To be there, to go there. And we've been cooking there, just experimenting with like a bunch of Bitcoin OGs, man, just having fucking fun amongst ourselves, because we know, like Mike Hearn, when he had his Lighthouse proposal, do you remember the Lighthouse? Like, things like that. We're just playing around, dude. Playing around with everything Satoshi gave us, all of the opcodes he gave us, and embracing the fact that Bitcoin is not just coin, Bitcoin is bits, Bitcoin is computational power, because the block size war was not just a war for block size, as people would like to say. No. It was a war for Bitcoin script, for us to be able to embrace Bitcoin's computational power, where a number is just a number, and we can compute data on chain and have what we call computing script in Bitcoin terms is smart contracts. So that's Bitcoin lingo for smart contracts, computing script on chain and doing crazy shit, man. And so when Casey Rotomore dropped the Ordinals, protocol, dude, for us it was like, oh, let's get it. Like, and they had a bunch of meetings, right? The Ordinals people, because they have the little Ordinals Foundation. And they're talking about like in like 6 months, 8 months, we're gonna be able to have PSBT exchanges on chain, dude. Within like, and my guys were even late to the party, dude. Within 3 days, there were already like 4 or 5 different on-chain exchanges, making BTC into the biggest digital asset exchange on the planet, more liquid than Binance, because there is more BTC held in custody than there is in Binance. So it's like you already turned BTC into a thriving marketplace that can never be censored, and it's a thriving marketplace that has proof of reserves every 10 minutes. Where all these marketplaces are nothing more than windows into the Bitcoin blockchain. So like, we never had to go through the shit that we saw with FTX or Mt. Gox, where we didn't know if they had reserves or not. In Bitcoin's original design, we have the ability to proof reserves in real time, every 10 minutes. And that's the thing, dude, is that they want us dependent on externalities to what Satoshi gave us. Want us dependent on these external Wall Street big tech exchanges. And the hypocritical aspect of it is that they will sell you crypto, they'll sell you Bitcoin as an investment vehicle, but they will never use the Bitcoin blockchain. They never use the technology itself. And when you have these gatekeepers like the core devs that don't allow you to experiment with all the possibilities that you can with Bitcoin, they're gatekeeping people from the fullness of Bitcoin. And what's happening with Ordinals is that the floodgates open, and they can't stop that. Big ass conference just happened in Singapore for Ordinals. It's huge. We're about to have one tomorrow, a virtual for free, cryptovigilante.io/Ordinals. It's free. Anybody can jump in. This is a tailgate party. We've been having tailgate parties celebrating this beautiful emergence and renaissance of a native Bitcoin economy, of this convergence of the brightest of minds of all of crypto coming together. Because Ordinals was not just a thing of big blockers. What you guys don't understand, whoever told you doesn't understand, is that this was also Solana devs, Ethereum devs, Polygon devs from all over crypto, realizing that we yield more by working together than we do by ourselves. And it is the smartest thing is to go to that, which is like the most liquid and populated of like BTC, and open up shop there. Even if it's expensive, because the transaction fees are expensive, you as a good merchant, you definitely won't open up a dollar store, but you can open up a Gucci bag store. You understand what I'm saying? And it is that mindset, that creative mindset that just breaks through any type of interference that central planners may put in the way, that allows us to come closer together. Now a beautiful phenomenon is happening, Paul, that this convergence around an on-chain economy has created a culture where we are building on-chain, open source, and interoperably with one another in real time, where we're having spaces, we're having groups all happening at all times on the internet, where we're constantly just throwing ideas to the board and just trying shit out, see what sticks. And I think that we're just at the beginning of this crypto revolution, to be completely honest with you, Paul. We're just at the beginning.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're having fun. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I think, it's like, don't you learn? I hope you learned your lesson about, this is what I was trying to say back in 2016, 2017 about, if you don't hard fork, because now you don't have to. If you soft fork, you're still in the network. You still play by the network's rules. Everyone's on the one network. And now, as you say, you play around and have fun, but you're on the best network, and that is the way to go. That is smart. So hard fork is very dangerous. But
wait a minute. Look at what you're going through, right?
You're right.
And that's what's going to happen. It's this week alone, it's been over 85% of all big BTC transactions have been Ordinals. The people are knocking at the doors. Open up the floodgates. Let us build. Expand the script size. Expand the block size. It's starting to happen. And what you're going through is what all the Ordinal space is going to go through. You're actually leading the way in that. You're actually preventing. You give people a way to like prevent that from happening. And what it's positioning this is all turning into is the possibility of another civil war within BTC. And guess where the miners are going to go? Where 80% of the transactions are ordinal transactions.
Well, then it'd be very ironic because it'll be basically my idea that saves small blockism if that is the case.
Yeah,
but that'd be very funny. I'm not really gonna, who knows what could happen. It'll be a very funny. I really will be like, well, I don't want to say, but that's a funny thought. But I think it's good that you're having fun. I think the hard fork is a very dangerous tool and should not be used lightly, including for merely a 2 megabyte, 2x, or even 8x block size increase. That was your mistake last time, and so don't do that. And I'm glad you're having fun, and I have to go, but I want to leave you with this idea that I know you're going to like about if you're running a restaurant and someone wants to open a new restaurant. This speaks to exactly what you were saying before about the central planning. Do you go and you get permission from, you want to start a restaurant and there's one restaurant in town. Do you get permission from that restaurant owner to open your restaurant? Absolutely not. You are accountable to your customers. That's who you are accountable to, not the other people. And so we want to live in a world where Bitcoin Core can do its thing and other people can do all kinds of people different software. And it's all software is interoperable, but what's best for the consumer is if you have people who hate each other and you say, and people at Ford say, Tesla's never going to work out. And Tesla says, oh yeah, it's going to work out. And they say, we hate you. And they say, we hate you. And then they fight and then the consumer wins. And that's what we want. So that's what we should keep our eye on. What is in the best interest of the end user? And the end user should have choice. The end user should be able to choose their own level of security. They should be able to run whatever software they want to run. The problem with the block size was that everyone had to run the same. Everyone's block size had to be the same. But with sidechains, that's different. So it's a complete night and day situation. And so anyway, I have to go, but it's been fun, and hopefully we'll do this again. It's nice to hear from you again.
Right. Look, Paul, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you're doing for Bitcoin, because it goes to show that one person can make the difference, and you've really been you're that one person that people on all camps love. You know what I'm saying? Because people that people understand that you are someone who is always looking out for what's best for Bitcoin. It's obvious. It's not because of what you say, but because of your work. You're showing it, and you're giving us tools to keep everyone together. Right. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I really hope for the best, and that drive chains BIP 300 and 301 get adopted. Thank you so much for your time, Paul.
Hey, thanks for having me. See you soon.
Peace. What up, Matt?
Dude, that was insane. What a guy.
Bro, dude, like, do you feel like heaviness, like a heavy vibe? Like you can feel like the fucking historical weight of the Bitcoin civil war, like on the shoulders of like this conversation, dude. And like, and this dude is literally like, he is literally giving, how there's like a river and there's like, there's an escape valve that you need an escape valve, or otherwise the pipes are going to burst and shit. That's like literally what's about to happen with BTC, dude. Like there's so much fucking like pressure to scale the block size now more than ever, dude. And this dude is like, here's a escape valve. Actually, as many escape valves as you want. As they're like, no, we're not going to allow you to do that because of, whatever, blah, 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 ego, Heavy shit, man.
Hey, man, you can only weld something so many times before it can't hold it anymore, These valves are ready to bust. And, some folks might disagree, but Lutz says all the time, he's firm that scaling isn't, as long as you're horizontal, right, on-chain scaling, as long as you got the right infrastructure, scaling is something you solve as you grow. It's sort of organic thing that you just adjust and you figure it out. And Bitcoin is more than capable of that. And it's going to continue to grow. This is hyper Bitcoinization, and scaling is, it's not really an issue unless it's made an issue, which is what we've seen. And that's why it's very heavy, because it doesn't have to be an issue.
Dude, it's a matter of control, dude. It's people that don't trust the market is really at the heart of it. And so in Austrian economics, you learn that like there's three types of actors in the market. There's three ways people can act in the market when faced with an uncertain future, when they have fear for an uncertain future. So the first is that of the engineer, the second is that of the gambler, and the third is that of the investor, the speculator. So the gambler just gambles, right? Like whatever happens, happens. Fuck it, I'll just cast my lots, right? The engineer is like, no, I'm scared for the future. I must control it. I must have complete control of the future. And that's what literally these core devs are like. Like they can't stand the fact that this is not, that the market can figure shit out, man. Like they don't understand the concept of spontaneous order. That's why when you read Jameson Lopp and his understanding of consensus on BTC, notice that he throws in, he completely forgets about, he doesn't forget about proof of work, but he combines proof of work with the Foss ethos. And when you do that, you bring in power back into the equation, because now no longer do you have the miners and entrepreneurs being led by a network that is operating according to market-driven incentives, but rather now the network is stifled by people that are just scared. And they need to control. They just fucking need to control. They need to control. That's all it is. And then what we need to embrace is the middle ground. And that is that of the speculator, that of the investor, right? You make smart, calculated decisions for an uncertain future. And that's the thing, dude. It's like what Paul's offering the BTC network, in my opinion, is that middle ground. And you know what? The funny thing is, dude, is that is exactly what they offered. What the core devs offered through Blockstream back in like 2014 when they were sourcing capital, they literally offered what Paul Storks has delivered in the market. It's taken like almost 9-10 years for Paul Storks to develop this.
Why did they couch sidechains?
So it was a bait and switch marketing scheme, bro. Just call it for what it is. They said that they were going to give the world side chains, which now Paul calls drive chains. But in reality, what they give people was this thing called Liquid, which is like a proof of stake mechanism for financial institutions to have voting amongst themselves and attestation into the big BTC blockchain. Completely different from what we expected side chains to be, right? But like, fuck, man, that's the history, and it's sad. It's really sad, bro. That to see this. But I think Paul Storks and drive chains, they stand in an influx in time of Bitcoin history that really shines light on really what happened during the Bitcoin Civil War. Listen to his language and how he described everything that he's been living through, right? And notice his realizations, what he's realizing about the BTC culture. And this is what a lot of us big blockers have said. It was PSYOP.
Yeah, he seemed pretty bummed about like kind of the state of like the anxious like control or like the wet blanket over the whole thing. And he said it used to be a lot more fun and all these kinds of things that I feel like we're discovering in the vibe that's been happening as of late in Ordinals and in with Lulock stuff and different things like that.
It's the opposite, dude. Exactly. It's like people are having fun. They're just creating shit permissionlessly. Look at how amazing the Ordinals network is, right? Like on BTC, dude. On BTC, like there's so much idleness, dude. It literally opaques Ethereum. Like who'd have thought that a Bitcoin on-chain economy that is limited? It's limited. It's crippled. It's like fucking expensive, right? And here it is, like opaquing Ethereum. Because what Satoshi gave us is that fucking amazing. That it's a system that it's a capitalist meritocracy that aligns incentives and pushes us towards an upward spiral of positivity, where we constantly leverage off one another's success and we constantly just build on top of one another. So it's the economic incentives in Bitcoin are incredible. They're the best thing in crypto, in my opinion. That right there, dude, is like what changes the world. Like viscerally. On a personal level, it changes even how you think, and the fact is that that was kept away. That was kept away in BTC till Casey Rodarmore dropped the Ordinals protocol. I see a hand up. What up, JP? JP 100.
Yo. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm pissed. I missed Paul, man. I was waiting. I was waiting for it to wind down, maybe, and then he just popped right out. I came in late. But there's so much stuff going on here. This is great, man. So have you guys been in the loop with him all the while, or just lately?
Dude, I've been following Paul Storks since day one, since before he got started. And the reason why is because
No, I know 300 is like 5 or 6 years old. I know that's been around forever. But I'm saying, have you been like in spaces with him before, just recently?
no, I've interviewed him many times in the past.
Oh, okay. So I got you. He's in the click. So you know, there's so many different things, right? So you talked about how liquid morphed into something else, but what was liquid before it morphed into the thing you described?
No. Liquid is just what they end up giving people. But in reality, what they were promising people were a similar architecture to what drive chains are. So the people that are against drive chains right now were pitching investors like me side chains, which were drive chains back then. They were pitching what they criticize now.
Is there a difference between drive and side?
No. It's just a different. It's just semantics. No, there's no difference. It's the same thing. It's just that what happened was they sold the public in Bitcoin that they were going to create drive chains back then under the name side chains, and then they didn't deliver it, and so they created this thing called Liquid.
Yeah.
And they said they now claim that that's the side chains that they were promising, which is nothing more than like a proof of stake mechanism for financial institutions to vote. It's really fucking bizarre, dude. But they never delivered what they promised. So guys like Paul and myself were like, what the fuck? What happened? And so the thing is that Paul was working on his baby called Bitcoin Hive Mind. Go to bitcoinhivemind.com. And his baby, Bitcoin Hive Mind, was something that he really wanted to do on Bitcoin because it's the best place to do it. But in order to do that, you need to have access to, you need to have a bigger script and block size, right? Essentially, that's what you need. Like Paul doesn't talk about that, but that's essentially what it needs. It needs for you to be able to start harnessing Bitcoin's computational power. Okay, but one of the things that the core devs and the whole cabal against Bitcoin scaling, they don't want you to know that Bitcoin has this computational power that we can embrace. So what did Paul do? Paul's like, fuck, man, now I can't. Now the network split because of the Civil War. Now I can't have Bitcoin Hive Mind. So I guess I'm gonna have to build the drive chain, the side chains that these guys promised on my own. Like his desire is to be doing Bitcoin Hive Mind. It's not to be doing drive chains. He just said, fuck it. If they're not doing it, I guess I'll do it. That's literally what happened. And so now it's like.
So what exactly is Hive Mind? I'm not familiar with that at all.
What do you mean? What is what?
What exactly is Hive Mind? I mean, I know Liquid, I know Lightning, I know Fediment, but I don't know Hive Mind.
Predictions market, and it was the inspiration behind Augur on Ethereum. And if you want to understand the story of Augur, you could Google a place called an article called "The Case Against Augur," and it was written by Paul Storks, who was like their who was the Augur main advisor. Because Augur, what it did is like this kid was just like, hey, I really like what you did there. Since you can't implement it on Bitcoin because you're limited because they don't allow you to actually use the blockchain. So let's try it on Ethereum, yeah? And so Paul's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So they tried it on Ethereum. It's called Augur on Ethereum. But that idea originated in Bitcoin, and that's Paul Stork's baby, okay? That's Bitcoin Hive Mind. Look it up, bitcoinhivemind.com.
So that's the voting mechanism piece?
Yeah, it's a predictions market, yes.
Oh, okay.
On-chain predictions market.
So what did it become on the ETH side?
So yeah, dude.
You're rubbing. I just completely rubbed out.
Damn you guys, let's give Raph a moment to get back in here. Yeah, I don't want to change the topic, but I did have a thought that I could share in context with what was said. There's a lot of I don't know, maybe you could consider conspiratorial vibes within these spaces that we're cognizant of. It's not going to be that way forever.
That you can scale on chain.
Oh, there he is.
That's what you're starting to see. So in other words, we've teleported from the point from this years in the future now, actually doing what we've been wanting to do all along. So So yeah, so now Paul comes and he delivers what these guys had promised, and he's met with the resistance he described today.
So what product did it become on Ethereum side?
It's called
That
AUGUR.
Yeah, I know, but did it become like are they using it like in some perpetual futures thing or?
Yeah, just look it up, dude.
Okay.
What up, BitLive? How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's up? What's up? I just wanted to hear Paul go off a little bit. That was awesome.
Yeah, dude, we had a couple core devs and a lot of small blocker apologists banging at the door trying to get into the space to talk. But I had experience with them, dude, in the past with the Bitcoin Civil War. I know how these dudes are. So, no, this was a space that I gave Paul express himself, because I know I can only imagine the shit he deals with. Oh my God, because yeah, dude, they the Gregals, bro, it's a real deal. Look it up. Look up Wikipedia. Actually, fuck it, I'm not gonna mention it. It's just these guys are fucking expert social engineers. That's all I'm gonna say.
Isn't there a valid argument to be said that would drive more centralization?
A valid arguments where regarding what?
I'm talking about 301. Isn't there a valid argument to say that would drive more towards centralization because it would require basically more hardware, and it wouldn't be able to be distributed as much?
That's like saying the car industry needs more oversight because Tesla could possibly become a monopoly. It's a anti-capitalist argument, dude. That's all it is.
You could argue that the miners will focus on these. There will be a new economic incentive, and that will be a problem. But I kind of fade the whole centralization angle. Just the idea that miners could get paid more money for altcoins than Bitcoin, there could be consequences to that we don't really understand yet. But I wouldn't call that centralization. But there is a legitimate argument.
Me or they to call or dictate anything to the network to begin with. Let's just step back even further, a little meta, right? Like a little aerial view here. Who are these central planners that get to dictate what's centralized or not, or what's decentralized or not? That's the thing. If you pull back the curtain, you'll realize that there are some central planners there controlling the protocol, and that they disguise themselves under the semblance of being pro-decentralization, but they are nothing more than central planners planning what their perspective of decentralization is. That's a dirty little secret no one wants to talk about, and I say the quiet part out loud, because that's true. True decentralization is market-driven. It comes from the market, from market drivers, and capitalists competing with each other. And in order for that to happen, you have to have the comfort in knowing that someone can outcompete you. Literally, that's how Bitcoin was designed. One miner can outcompete the other miner. And then 10 minutes later, someone else can come and outcompete the winner of the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, but if the cost right now, the cost of entry is like $2 or $3 grand for an Antminer 19, right? So, but if the hardware requirements become so onerous that it's like buying a car, then pushing out Joe Pleb out of the game. I mean,
yeah, dude. By your logic, everyone should be building their cars out of their own garage as well, right?
That's exactly what
ridiculous, bro. It's ridiculous, man. Like, okay, you can try to build your own car. There's hobbyists that do that. By all means, build your own car, bro. Build your hot rod. You're free to do that. But if you want to provide, there's no central planner worldwide that tells us how many car manufacturers should exist. There are like 20, 30 different car manufacturers throughout the planet, or plane, whatever you believe. They're competitive. And we get very good vehicles in the market, right? Very competitive cars in the market. Every year we get better, like cars with better mileage, better engines, better designs. It just keeps improving. And there is no one central planner out there globally that says that there should be only X amount of car manufacturers, or that a car manufacturer should only be allowed to manufacture X amount of vehicles per year. Because every time you bring in that anti-capitalist mentality, all you're doing is limiting the productive capacity of capitalists. And that's what this whole rhetoric is about.
Speaking of cars, I just got a headline that the UAW just went on strike. Ironically.
Commies. Yeah, dude, we need to embrace freedom. We need to embrace capitalism at all costs. That we need to. Socialism and Marxism has impregnated all aspects of this world, and you have to be like, you cannot negotiate with those ideas whatsoever. So for me, the word decentralization is nothing more than a Marxist idea, just as egalitarianism, fairness, equality, equity.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean shit to me. True decentralization comes from open market competition, and in the market we figure out what the fuck the market needs, man. You know, as long as it's permissionless, frictionless, and it allows you to compete, that's all I care for. Let everybody compete.
So you're saying that if the price to entry, even if the price to entry is whatever, 50 grand, 100 grand, it's the same for everybody. So it's still equal, yeah.
Well, what's the price to entry to start a car manufacturing company? It's the same logic, dude. Like the thing that people don't want you to know is that Bitcoin was created to outcompete big tech, where you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, can open up shop on chain and use the Bitcoin miners as the back end of your business. That's what they don't want you to know. Because a proof of work world outcompetes big tech, because we can do something in Bitcoin that they can't, which is that we can wrap our precious data and protect our data, any content on the internet, with proof of work itself. So it's a completely different world, dude. And it's happening. You can't keep this down forever, dude. People are learning about Bitcoin. People are learning about Bitcoin script. Just right now, a couple of days ago at the Ordinals Summit in Singapore, this dude was talking about how they're like discovering Bitcoin script for the first time. Oh my God, we're discovering Bitcoin script. Like, dude, we've been playing with Bitcoin script for over 5 years. Like, come on, dude. Like, and guess what? This moves at the speed of thought. When Ordinals started, the biggest endeavor that developers were involved in was that of educating Ethereum, Solana, Polygon developers on how to use a UTXO, the UTXO setup, and how to compute script. So the more time goes by, the more we have an educated contingent of developers that know how to, create on a UTXO blockchain, and then know how to use Bitcoin script. Yeah, we're just having fun.
Hey, Raph.
One last thing though, I just became aware of the 300, 301 like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago for the first time I heard about it, and then after I heard it was like 5 or 6 years old, and it's been wallowing out there. I was shocked to hear that. I thought it was a brand new proposal.
Yeah, dude, it's sad. It's sad. Because yeah, dude, he had to do it on his own, and it was all bootstrapped. I think recently he got that layer 2 labs. I think maybe he got funding for that. I don't know, but overall, it's the messed up thing here. JP is that he who controls the protocol controls the network, and you should. For a lot of us Bitcoiners, Bitcoin was supposed to be fixed in stone. The protocol does not change. And then by having the protocol fixed in stone, where nobody has control over the protocol, at that moment, everybody has a level playing field, like equal level playing field. Does that make sense? We don't have that in BTC. But I think people are going to start realizing that that's what we need, because that's what takes power out of the equation. If you truly want decentralization, you need a fixed and stable protocol. Remember, Satoshi said Bitcoin was ready to scale past Visa amount of transactions since the Genesis block. He said that many times. So, yeah, man, it's been a journey, and it's naive to think that Bitcoin, being something so revolutionary, was gonna be embraced by the entire planet and by big tech and by Wall Street and by Silicon Valley. Like, yes, we love you, Bitcoin. Bullshit, man. they're embracing and they're pushing and they're pumping and they're investing in the Bitcoin that they can tame, the Bitcoin that they can manipulate, the Bitcoin that Jack Dorsey's comfortable with, that doesn't, fuck up his bottom line and his in what his shares. It's the Bitcoin that doesn't disrupt big tech, Wall Street, the Bitcoin that BlackRock can control and manipulate. That's the Bitcoin that they love. And that Bitcoin I see as I call it a zombie whore addicted to the heroin of fiat. And this zombie giant thing is just like whatever you want. And so if Elon says Bitcoin is not green enough, all of the core devs, all of them, they all just bend the knee right away and they're like, yes, whatever you want, do it for you. It's ridiculous, dude. What happens, like I sneak into Lightning conferences just to check the vibe. It's completely the opposite as what you would see in the Ordinals environment. They're literally up there teaching each other how to pitch to VCs. Can you believe that? That Bitcoiners are subservient to like venture capital. Please give me venture capital. Like that is like, it's the creation of Bitcoin. Okay, let me explain this to you this way. Bitcoin is a child, came from heaven, right? Like this beautiful child. And as it's growing, it developed the ability to walk, right? It has within the lifespan, he can have many different faculties, but the moment he starts walking, they say, no, that's all the faculties he can do is just walk. So then they put him in a cast and they're like, in order for him to do anything else, we must give him externalities like crutches. His whole body's in the cast. You can't speak, you can't reason, nothing. Lobotomize the baby. Now like externalities all around it. And so we can control the baby. Literally, that's what they did to Bitcoin in my mind's eye. That's what they did. So whereas Bitcoin, dude, it's like it can fucking think, it can grow. It's like it's a new internet. Bitcoin is an on-chain exchange. It's a marketplace. It's literally I see Bitcoin even as an artificial intelligence gaining consciousness. If you want to go that route, where we're all nodes of that Bitcoin brain coming together through capitalist meritocracy, figuring out what's best for each other as we collaborate in charity with each other, verifying and checking our work,
what's hysterical?
Everybody's,
it's almost hysterical. Everybody's coming to this realization like, oh my God, the fees are going to go through the roof because, if the transaction data is to double or triple from where it is here, it would be crippled. What do we, and they're saying that it's almost like a big shock that maybe by the end of the decade, you're going to be down to like less than 0.8 of a single award of a coin, and the fees are going to go through the roof, and then there's only 2,700 transactions in a block, and there's only 144,000 blocks, 144 blocks a day, and it's not going to scale, and we're going to get choked off. What are we going to do? And meanwhile, it's like the answer was there before you crippled it. The answer is still there, even now that you're panicking about it, and it's still there while you're wondering what to do. It's like the 800-pound gorilla in the room that nobody wants to admit is there.
Yeah, man, it's but guess what? The good thing, JP, is that a lot of us, we said, fuck that, and we're just going to keep experimenting, building, and growing in Bitcoin knowledge. And I'm talking about all of Bitcoin knowledge, everything that Satoshi gave us, Where we've been, while a lot of people have been like hypnotized by fiat money, literally by dollars, because they're like, oh, fiat. So a lot of these Bitcoin maximalists are closeted fiat maximalists. If you really think about it, they're just playing a giant game of hot potato. That's all they're doing, right? The truth is that as a Bitcoiner, like I never wanted Bitcoin to be dependent on an exchange. And there's the argument, well, yeah, dude, you need to bridge the fiat economy into Bitcoin. Yes and no, bro, because in Bitcoin at scale, it literally costs, it's free to post on chain. So you as an artist, you come with your creativity and you can exchange your creativity for Bitcoin, automatically receive payment, because that's how cheap Bitcoin is at scale when you actually allow a market to scale, man. So these central planners have been horrible for Bitcoin history. And I think that a lot of it, it's just Bitcoiners. If you're a Bitcoiner, you learn to put your ego aside. And a lot of us that like maybe understood Bitcoin in the early days, we never expected people from within Bitcoin to I don't know what it was, man. Maybe to be so. We never expected them to be economically illiterate. We never expected them to claw for power within Bitcoin. I guess that's the best way to explain it.
Well, you know, I posted up in this podcast with Bill Burnett from Barefoot Mining. He's an OG in the space, and he talks about a number of things. I encourage everybody to watch it. It's definitely worth your time. But one of the things he talks about is that the whole ethos of the whole cyberpunk ethos, you know, has been abandoned. Right? It used to be that the good of the network and the main focus was to make sure that the system would be around forever, and that the number one most important thing was the system itself. But then, like everything else, you know, people turn into greedy bastards and just try to line their pockets.
Yeah, the companies and the VCs destroy the open source nature of the internet that we've all enjoyed for years and slowly transition it to monopolies, which is where the VC and the central planner work together. And not just the VC, banks, any, you know, the monopolist.
I got a question for you, Raph. Am I coming through clear or am I rugging?
No, you're good.
So there was that dude that was trying to come up, one of the core devs. I'm curious, and you didn't want him to come up and join the conversation with Paul. I'm just curious what you were anticipating he was going to say that you didn't want him to enter the conversation.
No, dude, it's just that I have experience with these guys, and I know that I know how dirty they've been in Bitcoin history by literally, you know, even Crypto Bear, you know, he has a line in his song, you know, he says, I got banned on Reddit for wanting big blocks. When did the hackers start giving TED Talks? And it's just, yeah, dude, it was really nasty, bro. How they would like erase entire forums throughout the internet of big blockers explaining themselves. So I know what Paul Storks is going through, you know, and he and I don't think that they're being as vile towards him, because like my position and the position of big blockers like me was more like more pure. It was more like, no, we want to keep everything that Satoshi gave us. Please don't take away any opcodes of what Satoshi gave us. I want to experiment with everything Satoshi gave us. And so these guys, so Paul is more like he found like a middle ground, and so but his middle ground is like it's an escape valve for BTC that helps BTC out, but at the same time it really challenges them in their thesis, right? So I can only imagine the shit that Paul's going through. You know what I mean? Like that everywhere he goes, he has like 3, 4, 5 dudes, bots everywhere. Like he even said it, dude. Bot farming everywhere. Dude, this is how bad it was during the Bitcoin Civil War. So Jeff Garzik and Mike Hearn, they were like trying to settle for something like halfway. Okay, we won't have big blocks. We'll do 2x. Well, 2x. Seg with 2x, guys. We'll find a nice compromise. There's the New York agreement. Cool. So when they went and they did the Seg with 2x thing, they couldn't like they in order to attack the servers, they had to attack because of course these guys are like brilliant fucking computer engineers, right? Like Mike Hearn is like a former like Google fellow, right? Like they couldn't attack the actual dudes. So what they did is that they started attacking the ISP companies of the regions, you know, of the countries where these guys were and where they had the servers. They literally attacked internet service providers, and they DDoS the shit out of these. They literally brought the internet down. Like that's how fucking intense this was. How much these fuckers hated the idea of like just a little bit of scaling on chain, right?
So that dude Luke, who's trying to come up, he was one of the people that was doing that.
Maybe not him exactly, but guilty by association.
Well, I'll just say this. Every time I say these things or I write these things at the Crypto Vigilante newsletter, where I allow small blocker analysts, you know, like half of the team is like, we're not an echo chamber, right? That's why I talk about these things the way I do. Disclaimer. Not everyone at the Crypto Vigilantes shares the same perspective of Bitcoin as I do, okay, and Bitcoin history. They actually, I love the guys because all of them, they do come from the same logic tree, and I'll explain that later, what the logic tree of Bitcoin history is. But every time I've done this, dude, our own site gets fucking attacked. Our sites get attacked. I'm like, like, oh shit. But and look at this, what happened, dude. We were like, literally, we wouldn't allow these dudes up on the space, and what happened? The fucking space got rugged, right,
Yup,
man? Right away. Right away. Fucking, like, they made a call to Elon, hey man, shut it down.
Well,
Like,
yeah, because Elon's competing for this. This is the arms race, dude. He wants
fuck
X to
yeah,
be
it is,
the
dude.
interface to
Why do you
something.
think, bro, why do you think it's all of big tech against some random dude from Australia in the Copa trial? All of a sudden, all of these big tech motherfuckers are all for the defenders of free and open source software. Really, motherfucker? You are like the fucking monopoly of big tech, saying that you're for free and open source software all of a sudden, right? Like, you really, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, someone like the DJ just like, like the thing just scratched, right? What's going on? Right?
They do controlled opposition, and they run an open source project where they have devs on the inside, so nobody else can create a competing open source project. Like, they do all sorts of schemes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, dude. But like, the thing is that I think Team Satoshi's fucking brilliant, and it's being taken care of. Let's just say that. You know what I'm saying? It's all being taken care of, and it's up to us as Bitcoiners to know everything that Satoshi gave us, and just have fun and figure out how to scale on chain, like we're doing with Ordinals. Just have fun, dude. Like, really start arbitraging data. Just like have fun, dude. That's it.
Fuck yeah.
You know, let me tell you something. I saw this documentary once about it was the history of basically buses. It was the early 19th century in the United States, right? So there used to be cable cars, right? Trolley cars, like, like L.A., Chicago, New York. There used to be these cable trolley cars, and then they were even in Manhattan, and they ran on. It was like it was like a horizontal elevator, and that was the mass transit system. And then as soon as Rockefeller came out with the oil and started refining gas and everything, was it Rockefeller or was it Carnegie? I forgot. So anyway, as soon as they started with the oil and refining gasoline, and then General Motors came out with buses, and then they got together, and what happened was they bought up all the cable car companies and fucking put them and fucking ripped them out of the streets and everything and put them out of business. And then they came out with the internal combustion engine buses, and they started putting in gas stations and everything else, and they just crushed it. Meanwhile, like, to this day, right, I think San Francisco still has cable cars going up the hills and stuff. And it's just a perfect example of, industry, crushing the competition and just buying it and throwing it in the garbage to get rid of it.
Yeah, dude. That's why, like, Bitcoiners need to learn to love each other. They need to learn how to take care of each other, and they need to learn how to build things for one another. So Bitcoiners have to have a relationship with one another the same way that Bitcoin miners have a relationship with one another. So the way that Bitcoin miners like verify, guess, and check, like verify the work of the other miner in a competitive way, the same way that with my ideas, with my entrepreneurship, I need to be checked by you guys, and you guys have to look out for me, and I have to look out for you. Why is that? Because at the end, the company we all work for is called, right? Whatever the best network is for that capability of Bitcoin, right? In general, in its totality. And so that's that economic incentive. It goes across every aspect of the dynamic of Bitcoin itself. So when you look at a blockchain, you have to understand that the blockchain design is the best topological graph for us to be interconnected, to cooperate with each other. And it is the fastest, cheapest, most interoperable, and most secure means of being connected to a network. So it's what we call in computer science a small world network. And when many small worlds come together, we have a mandala. And so it's like the flower of life. That's what Bitcoin is in its topographical map. And so we are always constantly trying to be at the center of that network, so that by serving each other, right? By securing the network together. So by leveraging off each other's success, we achieve this by converging together and building on-chain, open source, and interoperably with one another. And that's what we're seeing happening with Ordinals. You know, the tooling is happening automatically because it's profit-driven. So the motor, if there's an engine to Bitcoin, it's called profit-seeking. Profit-seeking is that which runs Bitcoin, right? And so if it's profitable, the miners will accept it, and it's going to be something that's going to secure the network. If it's not profitable, it means that the community does not want it. So there's no reason to fear miners figuring shit out, because miners are those entities in the network that have the most to lose. And that's what the small blocker camp laser eyes don't want you to know. They think the miners are the bouncers of the club. In reality, the miners are the owners of the club, to be completely honest. Why is that? Because I can own the coin, and if something happens in the market, I can sell the coin. I can have a business in the network, and if something happens in the network, I can pivot my business to something else in fintech. When you own the hard metal, because you need to own the hard metal in proof of work, you have no other means of reaching that hard metal but to mine SHA-256 elsewhere. That's the only purpose of this hard metal. The dirty little secret that a lot of proof of stake blockchains don't tell you, like Solana, Ethereum, is that a lot of these validators don't even hold the hard metal. They just rent out servers elsewhere. So what happens is that the Bitcoin miner has an incentive, an innate automatic incentive, and he has an immediate feedback loop of reciprocity with the market in real time. So the miner at scale needs to facilitate entrepreneurship and needs to facilitate and make things better, cheaper, faster, and more secure for the end user, first and foremost, protecting the end user, and obviously in facilitating entrepreneurship. That is Bitcoin at scale, right? And so,
wait, hold on. I got to push back on one thing. I mean, you make them all sound like Mother Teresa, right? But the reality is that the mempool is a pick and choose thing, right? So the miners can basically ignore the fucking mempools, put their own transactions in at like zero to no cost in transaction fees, and then they can drive up the fucking price when they go to the mempool. Meanwhile, they already got their own stuff through. So
anytime a miner attacks a network, they commit suicide.
Let me just finish. But however, anybody can obviously bring up a miner and do that for themselves too. So it is still an equal playing field. Over.
Well, yeah, anytime the miner does anything bad towards the network, any type, even if it's just a stupid thing that they do, not malicious, they're hurting themselves, and they're becoming less connected to other miners in the network. So Bitcoin incentivizes miners to be in their best behavior, and you as a miner get rewarded by finding mistakes in other miners. That's what makes so fucking genius about this, right? So it's like it's a constant network that is like verifying itself. So if a miner were to attack the network, they'd be committing suicide. They can try. I mean, by all means, attack the network if you want. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You'd be going against your own incentives.
We're starting to see MEV.
Just want to cram this thought out real quick. There's a great video by Bitcoin University on YouTube, and he explains how BlackRock and nobody can actually crash the miners by manipulating the hash rate and the mining pool. So it's like a 7-minute video. It's fucking mind-blowing. Just throwing it out there. Go on.
Yo, there's another aspect of Bitcoin that a lot of people don't talk about, which is the honest chain of digital signatures. Like Bitcoin, what protects Bitcoin is honesty. It's an honesty. It's a truth ledger. It's the book that cannot be burned, and they don't want you to know that. So that's why they used libertarian rhetoric to try to sell you the idea that Bitcoin's supposed to be a privacy coin, or that they could turn it into something private. So out of that logic tree, honest Bitcoiners realized that could never happen in Bitcoin, and they went off and created what we know as Monero. That's why you see a lot of like small blockers that are like also pro Monero, right? So, but in reality, within Bitcoin itself, you have the chain of digital signatures, the honest chain of digital signatures, which is what protects and what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin, right? That is the most important, one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin itself. That is the chain of digital signatures, which was removed in SegWit to an extended block. Where
what's the tail fee piece of Monero?
Do not forget the number. It's very small. Yeah, dude, the honest chain of digital signatures is what makes Bitcoin and honesty machine, a truth ledger. So in the early days of Bitcoin mining, when we were just mining out of our laptops, the question was proposed. So what would happen if some Hewlett Packard or like IBM decided to attack the network? They have a lot more computer power. They could easily 51% attack us, right? Wrong. Because Bitcoin is the honest chain of digital signatures, meaning that honest miners will just reorganize orphan invalid blocks. So like that so part of the Civil War was this, not only was there the lie of like decentralization, but there was also the lie of might makes right. Right? There's this whole like rhetoric that started like, no, we need to have the most hash power to prevent a 51% attack. It's like by brute force, you know, like it's almost as like they try to confuse people by making people think that there's like some sort of like a brute force attack. And like, dude, no. Bitcoin is the chain of digital signatures, where we follow the honest chain of digital signatures as Bitcoiners, as miners. So that was one of the big fucking things that happened with SegWit, was because they completely removed Section 2 of the white paper onto an extended block. And so they don't, from the chain of digital signatures is in a lot of BTC is broken. Not in all of it, but in a lot of it is no longer there like it was in original Bitcoin. So they had to like change the Bitcoiner rhetoric from chain, you know, the honest chain of digital signatures to might means right. You know what I mean? Like we have the most hash power type of vibe, right? So it's yeah, dude, it's also it fit very well with the rhetoric of we must turn Bitcoin into a privacy coin, right? The chain of digital signatures implies honesty because they don't want you to know that Bitcoin's an honesty machine. It's a truth ledger. It's the book that can never be burned. You know, it's history that it can never be rewritten. It's that fucking important, you know? It's fucking huge, bro. It's like bigger than the internet, man. It's like, it's the biggest fucking thing. And yet it's that which is largely undiscovered in all of crypto, which is fucking wild. That in spite of it being the first, it's still the most amazing thing in all of crypto. And the thing is, it's just mind-boggling to me, dude. It's really marvelous, you know?
Yep.
Again, disclaimer. Other people at the Crypto Vigilante, my co-founder, Mr. X, for example, he's like a digital money, sound money maximalist. So he's very much like Monero, Pirate Chain, Daryl type of guy, right? And he doesn't want to do anything to do. So he's like the type of Bitcoiner that used that, like he took that logical desire to its logical conclusion. And he was honest. And he said, well, you know what? If indeed we do want privacy, indeed we need privacy, we need sound money because we need fungibility, extreme fungibility. So no way you can take the truth ledger that is Bitcoin, the honesty machine that is Bitcoin, with a chain of digital signatures, as Satoshi describes it. No. We need extreme privacy, so we need to start from scratch. Enter the crypto protocol, right? And the emergence of Monero and privacy coins, because that is an honest logic tree of early Bitcoiners. So you have like 4 different camps, I like to call it, 4 different camps in Bitcoin history. There were those who said everything Satoshi did was fucking amazing. It was right. Don't touch it. Like, let it be. Let's at least experiment with everything he gave us. That's like where I fall, right? Extreme big blocker script, you know, that's me. Then there was those who said, no, don't ever think about the computational power of Bitcoin. Only focus on the coin aspect of Bitcoin. That's Bitcoin Cash and BTC, right? And then there was those that were like, no, but if you really want just to focus on the coin aspect of Bitcoin, you better do it right and be completely fungible, private by default. That 4th camp is Monero. And we need to start from scratch, right? It's like changing the wheels of a semi while it's on the highway going 90, right? Like, you can't just turn it into a privacy coin, right? You know, there's people that are trying to do that in Bitcoin BTC. Like, you know, you see the guys from like Samurai Wallet and all that. But like, dude, it's like you're never going to be private to the degree that you could with the technology that we have now. So that is the tree of Bitcoin. And you'll notice that the 2 honest, not what I call them honest, the the Monero crowd and the extreme BSV crowd, they both come from the same logical tree, which is one says Bitcoin is an honesty machine, don't touch it. The other extreme says Bitcoin will never be a privacy coin and will never be sound money the way we want it, like the cypherpunk ethos. So we'll just have to start from scratch with something like Monero and really adhere to the free and open source software ethos.
Oh, okay, Raph, that was an incredible explanation. And yeah, I will do better with like how I build up that. You know, I can't say, oh, you know better than anyone else. Of course not. Just edifying, and I'll get better at that. But really, what I'm trying to say is like, or ask rather, something I'm struggling with like right now in the moment is you cover the technical side of things, right? But the fundamental side is that there's still like this lingering sort of fear within crypto around privacy. And you've studied Solarpunk and Lunarpunk as brought to us by DarkFi, and I really think it's brilliant. If anyone hasn't seen this, Google it. It's on YouTube. And that video explains in 10 minutes the importance of transparent coins versus private coins. And in a nutshell, how privacy coins for your private life, transparent coins are for extreme capitalism, as we've been talking about, and really why we're here. Okay, so there's like a lot of amazing people that I love dearly in the privacy coin space that are still hanging on to the fear of having to run and hide. And it's infecting my just me feeling like I'm on the right track, because the last thing I would ever want to do is talk about a technology that doesn't support human freedom. And a lot of these privacy coin supporters, they really feel that transparent coins like period, end of story, are dangerous for humanity. So could you enlighten us a little bit about this topic fundamentally?
Yeah, dude. So they're just different tools, and people have different needs for privacy. Maybe the lunar punks are right, and maybe we're just naive, and we're by playing out in the open, we're just making ourselves susceptible. But the reality is, dude, is that like I do not want to live in a world where you're hiding. Like me personally, I mean, no, dude. Like I want to live in a world where we create capitalist incentives so that we incentivize more freedom and markets and peace. And where tyranny becomes ever more costly. So everyone's different, dude, and if you're living in a tyrannical country, if you're living in a 1930s Germany and you have to run, you maybe don't want to use a Bitcoin. You might want to use a Monero, right? Like in that situation, right? So it's everyone's different. These are just tools, and every tool could be used for good or evil. Every single tool, every single type of tool. So the morality question really doesn't fit. I just think that the market is going to figure out a way on how to give everyone what they want. And the problem with privacy coins, unfortunately, is that because they are private by nature and these privacy communities are so concerned with their OPSEC, the problem that they end up running into is that it's hard for them to gain a network effect when like we're here in Twitter space, like cooking with each other, sharing ideas out in the open, right? Building applications right now, like we can do that out in the open. A privacy enthusiast will just wouldn't even dare to talk on a Twitter space without a voice disguiser. You see what I mean? It's like, so that, yeah, there is a fear. Maybe it's rational fear, maybe it's irrational fear. I don't know. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own like prerogative as to how much OPSEC they need in their life. But what's important is that what's unfortunate actually is that these privacy communities, because of the nature of privacy, it's hard for them to go viral. You know what I mean? And it's funny, dude. It's like, yeah, I'm going to create this privacy application that's going to rival Twitter. Great. But how are you going to market it? You know what I mean? Like
Oh man.
it's like, I'm pretty sure. I know the cool thing is that I'm pretty sure people, will figure this shit out. They will figure out how to make something private go viral. Like friend.tech virality, ChatGPT type virality on, complete privacy. I'm pretty sure they will figure it out, but it's a lot of it is that they listen to what we talk about and they learn from us, and then they talk about it amongst themselves. That's really what happens, because so aside from privacy, because privacy is like this thing that like a lot of the free world doesn't need because it's the free world. There's an aspect of like liquidity, attention, virality, how degenerate the application is, and that doesn't have to be in a bad way, but like the dopamine hits that the application gives you. A lot of these things is where the market is competing at right now. So the market doesn't. The last thing the market cares about is privacy. People care more about fun, right? They care more about, they care more about like liquidity, about going to the moon, right? So there will come a time where these privacy communities will learn from everything that they've seen out in the open and create things that cannot be done out in the open. And we're not there yet, but I really like Dero, Dero, as a community. They're, I call it alien technology because it's fucking it's wild. It's like best way to describe it is like BSV but private by default. And so it's almost trippy because it's so like fuck. It's like it's uncharted territory. But yeah, man. I mean, everyone's different. I'm just happy that everyone is creating these cool tools and that these cool tools are all coming from different places. But I do know that the convergence happening where we're all coming together. We're all coming together into the best of networks and we're building together. And this convergence will continue.
Okay, great explanation. And to your point, just the problem of everybody working on their own little walled garden type of stuff. I mean, this is a problem to me, you know? Like, how do we get everyone on the same page with like what you just said? Like that, okay, get educated, learn how to use these tools and what works for you, what doesn't, without like holding the innovation of the space back. How do we solve that?
Dopamine.
There you go. You got to figure, dude. You got to. It's like what we talk about. You know, you got to cook, man. You got to get feedback from other entrepreneurs at the moment of that the idea is like inscribed in the other person's mind. You know, so it's important to talk about ideas when you're building on-chain, open source, and interoperably, because that's where the peer review starts. The peer review starts the moment that we start talking about an idea. You shouldn't wait until it's like in the world we live in right now, like you shouldn't take more than a week to deploy an application or deploy a proposal on chain. If you're taking more than a week, you should toss that idea aside because you need to be very nimble and you need to move very fast and you need to just keep going, dude. And know that every tool that's being built out there is a tool that someone else will use and build on top of, right? Like you see it in Ordinals, you see it in the Dero community. Like dudes are they build one thing here, and then someone else says, "Oh, that's awesome, cool, it's open source, on-chain, interoperable." Boom, they build something else using the same tooling, and it's just they just keep like stacking Legos on top of each other, and then creating more pieces of Legos to keep putting into different places. So it's really cool, dude. But again, it's if you think that Bitcoin, the blockchain really killed the corporation. The corporation is dead. It's a dinosaur. It's dead. It's extinct. And the corporation comes from dual entry accounting. It's dead. It's gone. The blockchain is triple entry accounting, where we all work for the blockchain now. We don't work for a business. We work for the blockchain. The Crypto Vigilante, we educate. That's what we are. We're educators, right? That's literally all we are. We're just educators. Objectively give our research to our subscribers to learn objectively, and for to empower the subscriber with knowledge. That's what we do. But it's no one here will outlive the blockchain, the best of blockchains, and no business on this world will ever outlive any of the best of blockchains. So when you realize that, you realize that you work for the best of blockchains. That's who you work for.
Yeah, I guess that's the solution. What you're doing, showing up, educating, just day after day, and whoever can see it, outstanding. And unfortunately, not everyone's going to see it.
Have you guys heard that experiment where there were like monkeys on an island, and they taught like one or two of the monkeys like how to use this tool, and then eventually those monkeys like taught like a few other of the monkeys on the island, and then like they taught a few more. And then, like, all of a sudden, all the monkeys on the island were doing it. And then monkeys on, like, the other island that those monkeys didn't even have access to were also doing it. I think we're like approaching that kind of moment with this type of thinking, you know, the on-chain interoperable, open source, like working for Bitcoin, and realizing that I think there's going to be a watershed moment coming, and I think TCV and this, you know, that Cambria thing you guys talked about, and what this thing happening tomorrow is, and what Jack's doing in these spaces that are happening. And I was in a space earlier, an ordinal space, where I was getting the same vibe. One of the speakers, what's her name? That's going to be there tomorrow. The chick that like knows Casey, is it Isabel, or yeah, Isabel. She was talking about like some kind of like, you know, putting news on chain, and like a way to be able to like filter out the bullshit, and like people were like, you know, coming in with like trying, like reaching for like similar ideas as like what the type of signal that like a costly signal to filter out bullshit. And I hear other people talking about this idea, and I just think the coin's about to drop. I think that there's going to be a really cool explosion of creativity and fun and unity and working together that we're about to get to experience, and it's going to be like a ton of fun.
Totally agree, man. God, I love hearing you talk. You're incredibly insightful. You've got a nice voice to listen to. Great work, man.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Thanks.
JP, what's up? How are you? I see you going from space to pace. You are gathering information. I love it. The more educated you are, the more educated your loved ones will be, and everyone around you. And yeah, dude, that's the cool thing about Bitcoin, dude, and crypto is it's like Inception. You know, it's like no matter who you are, this is transformative to you and to everyone around you. It's really cool to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. I guess when you just if you're coming at it from a pure angle, you know, you don't have an agenda. You're just seeking the truth. I mean, that's really that's where I work from. So I don't have an argument to present. I just have questions. So that's really what it boils down to. But the biggest problem I see, the bottom line, the whole space, and again, I did this podcast with Bill Burnett from Barefoot Mining. It's a podcast where he's interviewed and brings up some really critical points, I think, right? The whole scalability thing, right? All the chains, even SB, right? SB is still in the same boat. It has to scale. It's just because just because you could fit more transactions into a block, you know, that's one thing, right? But obviously it can scale a lot more than the others. But even the big blocks can do transactions, right? The determining factor is the timing, right? It's the 10-minute thing. It's the V blocks for the height on when the transactions begin and end, right? That's fixed at the whatever, how many blocks it is for the 10-minute thing. So that's a finite amount, and obviously it's
not really, because with the chain of digital signatures, so think of it, the way I see it is like, think of like two chains, right? There's the blockchain, and then there's a chain of digital signatures. Chain of digital signatures runs from wallet to wallet, from UTXO to UTXO. It's a handshake. It's a digital cryptographic handshake from wallet to wallet, and that can move independently outside of the blockchain. Just think about it as like from wallet to wallet. Like Satoshi gave us like a built-in Lightning network. Ooh, that's literally what section 2 of the white paper is. And so this is just moving, pop, 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 and then whenever you want, whether you be the buyer or the seller or whatever, however the wallet architecture is set up, in however way we want it to set up, settle on chain. And we can do that because we know that in the past, miners have spent energy protecting the past history of the blockchain. So that gives us certainty that the energy that they spent in the past, they have to recuperate in profit in the future, meaning that they must secure and validate that the transactions that we did, quote unquote, through the chain of digital signatures between wallet and wallet, that they can come in when the miners pick up those transactions, that they broadcast across the network the right transactions, the right categorization of transactions. So first is first in Bitcoin. It's almost like there was an ordinal theory already in Bitcoin, right? And the thing people have this argument against zero confirmation has to do with transactions or things that happen within like the vacuum of a laboratory. But in reality, dude, it literally in the wild, that's really fucking crazy to do like a double spend. It's literally impossible. So with Bitcoin at scale, you can have zero confirmation. And when you have the chain of digital signatures, like in the old days, we used to talk about how we could go to Mars, and you and I in Mars can just send Bitcoin back and forth to one another from wallet to wallet. And when we come back to Earth, you and I settle on once we're back to Earth internet, we settle on chain. Like that was the mindset back in the day. That's how we understood Bitcoin. But no, you're right, dude. Like all of these technologies are still in the process of becoming. You're 100% right. All of them. Obviously, like we do fundamental analysis. We analyze these things, and we try to understand them as best as possible to get an idea of what we can logically conclude will scale best and perform best, right? And that's the best we can do, man.
Yeah, even even Lightning has its limitations. That's not the be all end all either. But I mean, if you scale it out, right? There's you do the math, right? 144 blocks a day times not in the case of BTC, you can. There's an average. In fact, Bill Burnett in this podcast that I pinned up that I keep telling everybody to watch, he actually goes through the math, and I learned a lot from this. This is actually a very, very informative podcast. This guy's really good. He talks about how he actually does the math, and he said the average block on BTC has an average of 2,700 transactions per block, right? So you do the math times X a day times a year. It comes out to just like a couple of million layer one transactions a year that it maxes out. No, I'm sorry, not a couple of million. I forgot what the numbers are, but it's a fairly small number when you look at 8 billion people on the planet, right? So he extrapolates it out to like the end of the decade, and he talks about the fact that only a tiny percentage of people are going to be able to settle on the base chain. If it goes hyper, and that will drive the fees out of control, right? So he uses the analogy like if you're buying a house, yeah, you don't mind paying hundreds of dollars for a layer one transaction, but if you're trying to buy a cup of coffee, obviously, it's ridiculous. Or if you're in the global south, unbanked and stuff, then it's just going to push the people out. So the thing, the bottom line, without rambling, the bottom line is the success is going to doom it. The more successful it is, the more doomed it is. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, they tried to create a contingency like for that by creating the auctioning process on BTC, whereas in original Bitcoin, like it was first come first serve, right? And so transaction throughput back in the day, and it still does on Bitcoin's original design, a transaction throughput equals the amount of transaction fees, right? But with the auctioning process called replaced by fee, you can jump in front of the line by paying more for the next miner. Like you pay, hey, I'll give you $20 for the bus ticket instead of 10. So let me into this next bus.
Skip the line.
Skip the line. So actually, that opens you up to a double spend possibility more than anything. So this auctioning process called replaced by fee it's just a completely different dynamic than what we had in Bitcoin's original design. And it's something that when they talk about transaction fees in BTC, they're talking about when they talk about a fee market, they're talking about the auctioning process dynamic fee market. When a big blocker talks about a fee market, he's talking about transaction throughput. So always keep that in your mind that there's two different. They may be using the same phrase, right? A fee market, but they're thinking two different things, right?
Okay, the fucking light bulb just went off in my head. That's huge. Yeah, I got you. Right, it's you're cutting with small block. You're paying to cut the line. With the big block, you're in line and just paying the toll.
Yeah, so in big block, it doesn't matter if you have millions of people waiting at the bus station every 10 minutes, it gets all picked up. The bus station, the mempool is completely cleared out. Always.
Well,
You know,
I mean, there's a limit to everything, but it's such a gigantic limit, obviously.
yeah, so okay, good thing that you brought up the limit. All right. So how does a big block world function with a limit? With a lot of capacity, a lot of influx? Well, miners have to calibrate for each other. Because a miner by himself, if I'm a multi-billionaire and I have the biggest mining enterprise ever, if I just say, yeah, I can transact all of those transactions, then it's a centralized database, essentially, right? Don't want that. You want to calibrate for the capacity of your other miners, because the value of Bitcoin is found in your interconnectivity with your peers. So if you are a big like miner that has a lot of infrastructure and all of the other miners are just like guys that are just barely getting started, you kind of want to help them out in a way you can. Like, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, you want to calibrate down to the capacity that they are most capable at. So it's a competitive cooperation. We call it co-opetition.
Co-opetition, cool.
Yeah, actually, I thought we made it up, but it's actually an actual term that you find on Investopedia. It's funny. Co-opetition.
The bottom line is you have to populate the mempool for the system to work. Bottom line.
Yeah, dude. And the cool thing is that, like, right now on BTC, over like 70% of transactions are ordinals, which is amazing. It's amazing because it shows you that an on-chain economy is, if you allow it to grow, it's really what where miners. Okay, so back in the early days, we talked about the golden age of mining. This was this future day where miners would make more money out of transaction fees. Remember back then we were talking about transaction throughput. More money out of transaction fees than they would from the block reward subsidy. We used to call it a subsidy. We still call it a subsidy, right? Well, in BTC, remember they have different understanding of mining fees. So they have.
Wait, hold on. You just touched on something that's really critical. That's really profound, right?
Sure.
It's a subsidy for the fees, right? You're subsidizing the miners so that they don't have to charge the big fees by giving them the rewards, right? That's actually what it is.
So think
it's
about
a fee
it this way.
Subsidy for the user.
Yeah, so think about it this way. So Bitcoin is something, it's like alien technology, right? That completely subverts all of the establishment powers of the world. It cannot get fuel from Wall Street. It cannot get fuel from big tech. They won't fuel this incredible engine that it's programmed to take them over, right?
It's got to be organic.
So it has to have, so Satoshi gave it fuel from within. So Bitcoin has fuel. Satoshi gave it its own fuel. And so to jumpstart the network, like you jumpstart a machine, that pulling of the levy of just like jumpstarting your lawnmower, that's him giving us the block reward subsidy. That doesn't mean that Bitcoiners become like dependent on the subsidy. It's like getting dependent on government welfare, dude. No. It's for us to jumpstart the network so that we can start aiding things on chain to transact sats on chain. Okay, is section 10 of the white paper is where he talks about nano transactions and micro transactions. The cool thing about a nano transaction or micro transaction is that what it does is that it makes every movement on the internet profitable, meaning that an entrepreneur can come in and always better a movement on the internet where every new byte on the internet is a sat that runs through this new internet called Bitcoin. And the reason why he gave us microtransactions is not so you can go out and get a change for a cup of coffee in the corner store. No, he gave you microtransactions so that you can arbitrage data on the internet. What's the one thing on the internet that revolutionized the internet and no one talks about is the like button. Something as small and significant as a like button, you can charge half a penny and split that penny across 5,000 people. 500,000 people, like literally in a nano transaction. And everyone that helped in creating that like button, every time that like button is touched, everyone gets a tiny nano transaction sent to their Bitcoin wallet. That is the future of the internet. That is Web3. That is the reason why big tech is suing, because all of a sudden they want open source technology, because they can't. have your cake of their desire for Web3 without being able to embrace some bastardized form of what Satoshi gave us. And that's why the computational power of Bitcoin has been attacked so harshly throughout history, because they don't want you to know this. They don't want you to know that like everything that Ethereum ever promised was always possible on Bitcoin from day one, even better. So it's like, yeah, dude, it's pretty amazing, guys. And like, you guys are like probably some of the only people on the planet that actually even heard of this, the idea existing as a possibility. Most people don't even realize that is possible, right? It's like forgotten history. You can't think about it. Don't talk about it.
And the only reason that's possible is because SV is the only one that could subdivide a Satoshi down to less than a Satoshi. Bottom line, right?
Well, yeah, man. I mean, dude. I mean, shit. I think it's sad because there's a point in time where we all could do that, right? No, and it's not just that. It's because it's not that they can subdivide a Satoshi. It's more that they crippled the design of BTC so much that it's just the transaction fees are so costly that it's just really, it cost me 1/30,000th of a penny to post on chain. That's how much I'm paying as a transaction fee on Bitcoin at scale. 1/30,000th of a penny. How much is it? What's the transaction fee for BTC? Right? Like what the fuck?
Well, it's limited to what is it? Eight positions past the decimal point, right?
Yeah.
But SB can do more. That's the main. That's the actual difference, right?
Well, it's so cheap. It becomes so cheap that you can literally do literally post for free. Like my buddy subsidized like 16 million posts with like $10 or some shit like that. It was crazy, dude. So on his website orderpost.com, you can just post whatever you want on the blockchain for free because he subsidized for anyone to just come post whatever they want on the blockchain for free.
There's one thing that I don't understand completely, and I want you to school me on this. So when a coin gets minted, right? You got the 100,000 sats in there, right? Does the whole BRC20 thing, does it move the sats around, or do they stay in the same block in the same coin?
Are you talking about the
UTXO? Yeah, but when you get change back from a UTXO transaction, right? Does that mean that the sat that's in this case inscribed, does it move from block to block, or does the stat stay in the same block that it was born in, or can it get moved around from transactions or from inscribing? In other words, so you got block 800,000 is minted, right? It's got the 100 million sats inside of it. Does all 100 million sats stay in that block forever, no matter through transactions, inscribing, reinscribing, recursion, no matter what? Or can that sat be through a UTXO transaction? Could that stats end up in a different block at some point during normal course of action?
So it sounds to me like your question comes from an understanding of the account-based model. Is that correct?
Well, no, to tell you the truth, I'm not even familiar with that term, account-based model.
So no, the global state does not change in Bitcoin in the UTXO's design. So by the global state, I mean that the UTXO, the inputs and outputs can spread out. And so no, you do have a lot more malleability, and you can scale in parallel. And no, you indeed. I mean, when you talk about you give it like a physical identifier, like move, like if it's a physical object.
Well, in this case, it's an order. We're talking Casey's old numbering system, right? So can those sats move from block to block through transactions?
Yeah, of course they always do. They're attested at every block. Yes.
So if you buy block 7,099 and you inscribe a sat in there, and then I guess if you lose your ordinal address and then somebody comes along and does a transaction, is that sat going to leave that block and end up in a different block somewhere? That inscribed sat?
Well,
Or does it stay in that block?
so I like the term time chain more than blockchain, because the block makes you think of a place, and Satoshi never used that term. He used the term time chain. So time chain, what the time chain does is attest to things that happen. So it's like bookkeeping. So it's not that it moves from one place to another. It's just that in the chain of
Oh,
time,
it's a state machine.
it's a time. Yeah, it's another way of putting it. I mean, yeah, dude. We're getting into very textured here. It's like, and the thing is that like the language that Satoshi gave us has been changed. So when you ask these questions, no, the answer is yes, dude. It's on both. Like if it's on block one, so everything can reference the block we're in right now can reference block one. Okay, so it's just attestation.
Right, you're referencing it. You're not actually rearranging anything. Everything stays in the order it was at the beginning. It doesn't change. It's
Yeah,
just
I guess that's you're
pointer.
right. I'm sorry, you're saying the pointer?
You're
Yeah,
right.
this is more of a language thing. Can you hear me?
No, yes, now.
Yeah, I think we're getting into like a very almost, I wouldn't call it philosophical question, but it's more of a hermeneutic question of how to use language correctly to like deconstruct and give things the definition that they deserve. And I think that this world is so new that you're getting into areas where you can people are going to be defining and refining this more and more as time goes on. And the reason why is because Bitcoin is something that especially Bitcoin at scale, Bitcoin is original design, there's so much to discover, there's so much I'm constantly discovering new things. So there's like, it's like the word mystery in theology does not mean that it's something you can't know about. But the word mystery.
Come on, wait a minute. Come on. The file structure is defined. It's clearly defined mathematically. It's not.
No. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that like there will always be something more to discover, right? So when you're using language like moving from place to place, well, you can conceptualize it in some ways as yes, it is moving from place to place because you're talking about it like an inscription that is like, let's say, like bitmap, right? You're moving from place to place, right? In the metaverse. But like if we put VR glasses, hello?
Yeah.
If we put on VR glasses, right? This is what my mind is, right? We put on the Vision Pro or whatever, and we go into the bitmap universe, and we're looking at the blockchain now as something that we can see, right? Now we're like, that's what I'm saying, dude, is that this just keeps going. You can say it is a place then, right? That the blockchain is a place, right? That you move from block time to block time, from place to place through bitmap, through the bitmap metaverse, right? So that's what I mean. Like, there's always going to be more things to discover, and people are going to experience different things from it. So, but in terms like strictly computer sciencey, language, like you want it defined on a granular level, I'm not your guy. Like if you want the textbook like legit definition of like exactly what it means, I'm not your guy. I'm not that guy for you. Sorry.
Yeah, but I do have to say too, JP, the way you're asking questions is so commendable because I've been just sharing Bitcoin like intent the last 3 weeks, and like I'm just getting so much pushback and lack of engagement. People don't understand this at all, and this is like the most important time right now to really be digging in and asking questions. And I guess my encouragement would be like try not to get lost in the sauce, because this is evolving. There are more things to discover. And to be real, most people haven't truly figured this out. It's like its own organism that was just born, like finally. So congratulations and thank you for showing up in this way. your voice is also really easy to listen to as well. So well done, man. Keep at it.
Yo, so I
Yeah,
think
curiosity, definitely. Thanks.
awesome, JP. JP, thank you for being with us. I think we're gonna close it out because we got a big day tomorrow, bro. So thank you guys for tuning in. It was the first two pregame to the summit, they were really fun. This one was kind of heavy. It's like, but it's I guess it's the yin yang, right, Matt? It's the yin yang of things.
Yeah, it is. You know, we're putting out a lot of good energy, so you're gonna have some come back your way. But we also weren't expecting Paul to pop in. I don't think so. That way, things are just gonna get heavy when you got OG Bitcoiners in the room, man. I'm not an OG Bitcoiner. 2017, I got into it, so that's why I trust your guys' lived experience, and I choose to really listen and ask good questions like JP over here because I empathize. Like he had the best point of the evening. I feel like is that what's happening here is that there's this isn't a circle jerk, man. This is a room full of people that are willing to put their egos and presumptions aside in pursuit of the truth. And that's all we're here to do.
Thank you, JP. Thank you, Matt. Thank you guys for tuning in. Summit starts tomorrow at 11 Eastern. You were saying, JP?
Yeah, real quick, the summit is it on Web 2 or is it in Spaces? Where is the summit?
It's Web 2. So
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the website. I registered it.
We're all boomers. Thank you. Yeah, we're all boomers in the process of becoming degens.
No, it's true, but it's so perfect because like in real time, I'm witnessing like my processes from Web 2 that I've been learning since 2012 when internet marketing funnels came on the scene. I'm watching them just evaporate before my eyes as I'm like integrating new ways and faster ways of getting things done, and as it is more demanding to get things done. So there's a lot of fundamentals and strategic movements from Web 2 that are currently evolved into Web 3. The systems, the technologies are what's evolving, but a lot of the fundamentals remain the same. You know, and TCV has great fundamentals. Their Web 2 is rock solid. I mean, the team is just outstanding from that standpoint. And this will be hosted on Restream, and it's a really reliable platform, real easy to use. So all are welcome. It's totally free. And the link to register is all over this Twitter page for the Crypto Vigilante. So I'll be there. I'll be on at 2 p.m. and I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Nice. Yeah. And just to reiterate, the co-founders of the Crypto Vigilante, we created an environment where we can disagree. We're not an echo chamber. So my opinions are my opinions. The rest of the Crypto Vigilante team, they all have their own opinion regarding crypto Bitcoin history. Interesting thing happened was that I've been beating the drum as like an extreme big blocker, that I am. And this thing of ordinals happening was really like, they all looked at me like, damn, Raph, fuck. Like there was a moment where they were like, damn, you fucker, you did it. Like it was funny, dude. We were at an Acapulco and I'm like, hey, Jeff, guess what? Me and my friends figured out how to start arbitraging data on BTC. It's called ordinals. And Jeff was like, motherfucker, really? They started laughing. He's like, you mother, like almost like thinking, you little piece of shit, like, I can't believe you, like, like, oh my God, so you guys are turning Bitcoin into an art museum. I'm like, yeah, we're turning Bitcoin BTC into an art museum, whether they like it or not. It's a very slow museum and a very expensive one. Yeah.
Yeah, that we watched that happen in real time at Acapulco. Like that was so trippy. Just seeing everyone like, what's going on right now with Bitcoin? And as you're like on stage, we're both like putting our slides together like right before the talk, if we even had slides. Just like it's happening. Like, what do you do? Talk about it.
Yeah, dude. So it's so obviously like, okay, look, obviously for me personally, there's a sense of like I feel, because we've had this fucking Bitcoin civil war, the angst of it, something we love so much is Bitcoin being bastardized from my point of view, right? So badly, right? And then all of a sudden we see this like this reemergence of awareness that Bitcoin is much more than digital lead in need of externalities, and that we can have a thriving economy. Like right now, Bitcoin BTC is the largest digital assets exchange in the world, and there's reserves for 10 minutes How incredible is that, right? That it's like the most trusted. Now it's not just a cryptocurrency, but it's also the most trusted network to trade and buy and sell digital assets. Obviously, it doesn't have the liquidity of an exchange, right? But it probably will in the future, you know. But it does have people ready to buy and sell. They just have to like pair each other up through the partially signed Bitcoin transaction scheme that is being used, or through an open order book in the future. So we are in a very beautiful place, you know, where like Bitcoiners are realizing things, and you have guys like JP100 coming in here and asking awesome questions. I see him going into spaces where he's talking to BTC small blocker maximalist, and he's also asking questions, you know, and that's what we need, man. We need a place, we need people, you know, that are asking questions, you know, that are coming to their own conclusions. You know, we don't want an echo chamber. If I am in the wrong, I want to be called out. You know, I really do. And that's why we have the team that we do. But yeah, guys, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Thank you for coming to the tailgate party. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. This conference is going to be special. Do you want to sign us off, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow in the morning, 11 a.m. Anarchy.
Peace, love, anarchy.